robots, dinosaurs of all ages, it is time once again for the goddamn Rage Select podcast right here on Rage Select, and I am Jeff. And that's your cue.
And I am Nick Hodges.
Okay, there you go. Like, yeah, pick it up, man. Pick it up. This is live radio.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought like you were going to introduce me to the show as you usually do. So.
Oh yes, welcome.
I don't want to butt in.
All right, everybody, put your hands together for the world famous host of the History Post podcast. Goddamn, Nicholas Hodges here on the podcast.
Thank you.
I feel like I need Nick. I really feel like I need to add like some kind of crazy new like subtitle to my own name, because every time like I've said this before, I feel like we've got these intros down right, but it sucks that I could go through all this bombastic energy and at the end and it's like, and I am Jeff, I need to be like, I am Jeffrey the Magnificent. No, that sounds like a gay magician, or I don't know.
I gotta hand it to you, the fact that you can keep that energy up, because I started doing podcasts myself and it's fucking hard to lead, your own show. So my hat's off to you, mate.
Well, I tell you what, this is podcast 130. So, I could probably say I remember the first time back in the old days at Spill, when actually I don't think I ever hosted a podcast there. It was frightening to me. I was like, dude, I don't want to fucking be in charge of maybe the guy who's got to talk and like pick out the emails and stories. I mean, back in the Spill days, you just show up on Skype and be like, I don't know, dicks and stuff, and then everybody's
you did lead. I mean, there was a point where Corey sort of left Loading Bar and you took the reins.
Okay, so, well, I
would count that, to be honest.
Okay, well, I tell you, it's incredibly frightening. But now it's just like, oh man, you gotta fucking podcast too. I wish I could just podcast like on Friday night when I'm wasted, as I'm usually a lot more chatty about just every goddamn thing.
But just have like the mic rolling, the camera rolling. Yeah.
So. Just get one of those little weird hand recorders. Just take it to the bar and be that weird asshole at the bar. I'd probably have to get like a trench coat and a fedora, like a leather trench coat and a fedora, maybe like gain 40 pounds, and then just be like that asshole at the bar who's like, people come over there or just walk up to the people's tables and be like, hey man, I'm doing a podcast here. Do you have any opinions about Superman or video games or anything like that? They'd be like, fuck off, dude. We're all getting laid over here. I'd be like, oh, what's that like? Ha 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 ha. Just kidding. No, I'm not. And then I would get kicked out of my favorite bar, and I'd never be able to go back, and it would be the perfect.
Make me sad already.
Well, I tell you what, Nick. Outside of, I think at the time when this is going up, you're going to have a brand new episode out. What's the latest episode of History Buffs about? Give me a sneak preview, because I'm in the past. So.
All right. Okay. Sure. The next episode is going to be a review on Amadeus. Have you ever seen that movie?
Sure. Mozart had pink hair. I remember that movie.
Yeah. It's a really funny movie.
Yeah. The Falco biography about rockin' me Amadeus. I remember. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the first punk rock star, back in the 18th century. Yeah. So doing a review on him, and he's very, very fascinating character. So I took a little. I was sick for a little bit of time, unfortunately, so that's why the episode's a little bit late. But that's going to be out hopefully tomorrow or the day after. So, what day is it today? Wednesday, right? So it's going to be out on Sunday. So it'll already be out by then, basically.
Okay.
The episode Amadeus, and the next one I'm doing is going to be Braveheart. And then I am taking a break until the next year.
Yep. It's actually, you know what? I tell you what, it's worth noting that we're recording this on Wednesday, and so I'm gonna just say right now that I apologize, because Nick, there is, I think it's on Thursday, it's either tomorrow or Friday, is the Spike TV Video Game Award bullshit, which I always think that the awards themselves, I consider, I've been on record as saying this before, so I'm just going to quadruple down on this shit. awards shows in general are garbage and dick. They are garbage dick because nobody gives a fuck. Like, who are you, Spike TV, to be telling me what the best video game that came out last year was? Fuck you. Like, just listen to the Game of the Year awards from GameSpot before I listen to Spike tell me whatever. But there's always a bunch of new trailers that come out. The Spike VGAs are always a place that's kind of like mini E3, where I think there's going to be like there's going to be a new Far Cry Primal trailer. Ed Boon had some stuff about talking about a new Mortal Kombat trailer that might be coming out. So one, we're not going to be covering that this week. We'll be covering it all next week. And two, this Saturday, the day before this podcast comes out, they're doing another PlayStation Experience thing where they're going to have a bunch of PlayStation announcements and stuff. And so again, we're going to talk about all that next week because I have to give people time to edit this shit, and the
exactly
poor editors of my podcast. Thank you guys. I don't want to say your names on television because I still think I'm on TV because I was born in the 80s. Right. I don't want to say your name on national television because I don't know if you want it out there, but you guys are the best. We switched over from Amanda to a few of the fans who are editing, and I always seem to get them the podcast on like Friday night. I'm just like, hey, I hope you're not out because I need this in like 36 hours. So,
I feel very bad for them, man. You're a monster. What the hell's wrong with you?
I'm history's greatest monster, Nick. Come on, you know that. Everybody knows. Jeff knows that I'm history's greatest monster. Well, that sounds cool. Amadeus and Braveheart. We were just having. I think I was just having a conversation with Grant before about like. I remember when Mel Gibson was like, "Oh shit, Mel Gibson's in that movie. I'm going to go. I'll go watch Mel Gibson. He's a good actor." And now it's just like, "Oh, Mel Gibson, history's greatest monster." Oh yeah, no, he's.
I'll say one thing because this will be the second Mel Gibson movie. No, the third Mel Gibson movie I'll be reviewing. Mm-hmm. And yes, he's an anti-Semite. He's a dickhead and all of that. But yeah, that guy can act. I'll say that for sure. I just don't like his choice in movies. It's like. It's a bit ridiculous because, I reviewed We Were Soldiers, and I thought that was a very mature and respectful way that they approached the historical source material of that battle of Vietnam. And the guy who directed We Were Soldiers also wrote the script for Braveheart, and that is just atrociously bad in how many inaccuracies are in that movie.
Do you address the difference between like Braveheart has virtually nothing to do, well, not virtually nothing. The things they are portrayed, there are things that happened, right, in that time with people that have the same names as those people, but there is a bunch of historical inaccuracies. It's still a pretty entertaining movie to watch, though, as long as you just think of it more like Game of Thrones than like, oh, is that what happened? Oh, that's what actually happened. Oh, that's what actually happened back then.
Yeah, but my argument is then why make a historical movie at all if you're not going to take it seriously?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, in We Were Soldiers, why didn't the Vietnamese kill Mel Gibson's wife and kids in America, and then he can turn up all by himself and go fucking Rambo and all of them? Because people would not take it seriously and think it's bullshit, but because it's set in medieval times, then you have the license to do whatever you want. And I think it kind of cheapens what the Scottish did to win their independence in that war by making it all farcical and silly. I mean, like... I don't want to give it all away, but like, for example, the French princess that he impregnates in the movie was 9 years old at the time of his death and was still living in France.
Oh!
So yeah. So I fail to see how that's even possible.
Okay.
Basically.
I don't know what's wrong with me, Nick, but when you say that, my brain is like, God damn, Mel Gibson, you are fucked up. Because my brain is like, Mel Gibson fucked a 9-year-old? What the hell, Mel Gibson? I knew you were messed up in the head. I didn't know you were that messed. Oh, come on, man. And then my brain, it just like taps me on the shoulder and is like, no. That's not what he's saying.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's ridiculous. I mean, it just puzzles me as to why that movie won 5 Academy Awards.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. So, I know you could do that. You can just watch it as a casual viewer because I love history so much, I just can't do that.
But see, I have this theory that comes up every time the Academy Awards gets mentioned, that the Academy Awards are horse shit. Like, if you go back, I mean, not okay, listen, not total horse shit. They're not giving Academy Awards to, like, The Room, right? Like, it's not that horse shit. It's just pretentious, and to the point where when you go and you look up, like, what the best movie of X year was, and then you look at, like, the movie, all the Blu-rays that you bought that came out that year, I feel like there's a large difference there, where the things that I was interested in, or maybe it's just me, maybe it's just that my taste in movies is very different than what the Film Academy of America thinks is a good movie, because I'm just like...
I totally agree with you. I remember one time I was watching the Academy Awards, and they gave an award to John Williams for his score on The War Horse, I believe. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, do you even remember what the tune was for The War Horse? No. But at that same year, Tron Legacy came out, and I think that should have won an Academy Award, because I listened to that soundtrack, and I'd still that is quintessentially a Tron movie. It was John Williams. Yeah, he was great for Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and Superman, but you cannot think of what the song was for War Horse. I think that was just being pretentious.
It was like War Horse is a war horse. Yeah, no. I didn't watch War Horse because I don't care about war or horses all that much. Well, that's not true. I care about war, but I just don't really give a shit about horses. But well, I tell you what, we've got a very bizarre. It's been a strange week in video games. We're going to get to that in just a second. But before we did, Nick, have you been playing any video games?
I have, actually. I
because it's been a while. It's been like a month, I think, since I talked to you last. Like,
yeah. I borrowed Black Ops 3, and instantly regretted it. You know, like
I still haven't finished the single player campaign for that, because I'm just like,
it's bullshit. It's bullshit. I mean, like it's kind of nothing.
It's kind of boring. Like, it's just like I don't care about you, dude from Law and Order, and like I don't know. Like, I mean,
like, it has Mitchell from Stargate. I mean, that's kind of a plus, I guess. But you know what really bothers me in that game is that they have, like, these sequences where it takes place in the character's mind. Mm-hmm. And for me, it just doesn't have any effect, because whatever you do in that sequence doesn't have any bearing on what's going on in the main storyline.
Sure.
That's how I feel. I mean, it's just bullshit. I thought Advanced Warfare was way better. Black Ops 2 was way better than this. This is just meh. This is like the next Call of Duty Ghosts, as far as I'm concerned. And then I bought Fallout 4, but I haven't had the opportunity to really dig into that yet. So,
okay.
Maybe, like, I think that would be my Christmas present to myself, you know? Just, like, after my final episode for this year, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to play video games, and I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah, I need to sequester myself, or I don't know, start releasing like old episodes of Rage Select for a week or something once we're done, because I think there's only like one more week in this year where there's next week, I believe, I'm going to actually pull it up and check, but next week I believe is the last week where anything actually comes out this year. After that, it's pretty much just garbage until like February, right? So we'll be going back and we'll be looking at a whole bunch of other stuff, because Just Cause 3 and Rainbow Six Siege came out this week, and then we've got Xenoblade Chronicles, and I feel like there's Devil's Third comes out on December 11th, and that's pretty much the last thing that happens for this year, because there's always a giant drought after that. So we're going to try to, we're trying to go back and look at a couple things that we haven't done, maybe do some special stuff for Christmas time. But I really need, I remember the same thing happened to me last year, except it happened with Dragon Age Inquisition, where I just couldn't put like 3 hours together in a day to play Dragon Age Inquisition. And right now it's bad because I keep flip-flopping between the Bloodborne DLC and Fallout 4 and Star Wars Battlefront is just gone for me now. I mean, we played Need for Speed for a dojo, but I haven't touched it since then. And then Just Cause 3 came out today, yesterday, along with Rainbow Six Siege. And Nick, I have a pretty serious problem with Just Cause 3.
Not with Battlefront. Okay, I thought that would be a major peeve.
We talked about that a couple podcasts ago. I didn't really have that big a problem with Battlefront, and I've just kind of resigned myself to be like, you know what? There are a lot of people have a big problem with Battlefront. I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was real fun. I had a lot of fun with it. Thought it was worth $60. That's all. I went into it ad nauseum. I think I don't know. The DLC strategy seems a little shitty, but it doesn't seem that much shittier than what we normally put up with, and so blah, blah, blah. Never mind. Whatever. But, like, I don't know if you know this, but when Fallout 4 came out, there were a lot of people who were just, like, really up in arms about, like, the frame rate and bugs and, problems with the game and blah, 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 blah. Just Cause 3 is a mess. Like, it's fun. It's moderately fun. I think Rico Rodriguez's head is like still 2 sizes too big. Like when you look at him in the game, it's like, did you guys like put the decimal point in the wrong place on the slider for head bigness? Because he's just got this huge melon where I'm like,
he looks like a bobblehead or like one of the Garbage Pail Kids.
He honestly, I said this in the dojo, but he honestly looks like I turned on big head mode in like NBA Jam or something. Like his head is just freaking enormous. But no, that game has this weird memory leak thing where like if you certain times when I load the game, it'll take something like 5 minutes to load. Like just sitting there watching a progress bar that never progresses. And I don't know. They might be able to patch something in to change that. God only knows. Like Bloodborne had way longer. They put in a patch after it came out that like halved the loading time. So there's that. But there's that. And then like people kept talking about the frame rate dips in Fallout 4, but like Fallout 4 being kind of more of an RPG, it didn't really bother me as much. But in Just Cause 3, when I'm trying to like drive a car into a base with a bunch of explosives strapped to it, I don't want the game to drop to like 12 frames per second. I'm trying to drive a car at 250 miles an hour that's got a bunch of bombs that are also rocket engines strapped to the back of it. I kind of need to be able to steer this motherfucker and not just have like bat, get down to the single digit like frame stuff, which is really a shame because other than that, like I actually really like what I'm playing of the game. It's just these horrifically long load times and these frame rate stutters that for a game like that just really, I don't know. It's strange because I guess I haven't run into the entire internet freaking out, setting its hair on fire because I've heard that on the Xbox One that people have seen 10-minute load times. Like you die in Just Cause 3, which is real easy to do, and then you sit on a loading screen for like 5 to 10 minutes while it loads back into the game. That's fucking atrocious. That's like playing, like have a whole other game up on your second monitor so that you can play it while Just Cause 3 is loading. And it's especially egregious when they have a whole series of like these challenge events that are like races or like these parachuting, like or you're wingsuiting through these rings or you're trying to blow up a certain amount of things in 2 minutes or something like that. And the problem is that when you have a side op type of thing that's that's literally got a 90-second time limit on it, and you decide that you want to retry to get a better score, and it takes like 4 or 5 minutes to load. The load time is actually longer than the time that you got to play in the game, and that's fucking crazy, man. It's just like that's insane, and that to me is more that is more the kind of bug that I'm going to sit here and go like that's insane than the fact that the Fallout 4 frame rate drops from time to time into single. I mean, I always use VATs anyway, so I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It's it kind of sucks because I feel like Avalanche really did themselves a disservice this year, Nick, because they made that Mad Max game. And
did you buy that? Did you play that?
Oh yeah, we played it. It was real boring, just real.
That's what I'm getting with Just Cause when I'm looking at the trailers. Obviously, it's an amazing sandbox game, but I remember I was having a podcast where you were saying how these sandbox games feel sort of empty to you, like there's no real life in them, and I totally get that with Just Cause. It kind of reminds me of that game Mercenaries that came out in the mid noughties, I think it was, or late noughties, something like that. Yeah, I mean, like the only sort of sandbox game I'm really looking forward to is the Tom Clancy's Ghost game set in the Wildlands. Where you're in Bolivia.
Yeah, Ghost Recon.
Yeah, Ghost Recon. Yeah. That looks pretty sick, though. That looks pretty cool.
Yeah,
that actually is some impact on the world, whereas just in Just Cause, you just have some shit to blow up.
That I think the difference is between Just Cause 3 and a lot of other games that I played. I mean, even Mad Max kind of gets the same. It has the same kind of issue. Is that Just Cause 3 has a big world, but but they give you a lot of really smart. It's kind of like the best way that I can think of is remember you played Prototype, right? Remember Prototype?
Yeah.
Is that Prototype was a big world, but it was relatively empty, but the game gave you a lot of really fun ways to get around, blow shit up, and create havoc. And that's what Just Cause 3 should be, because you have like this combination of this grappling hook, parachute, and wingsuit to the point where you can just start on the ground, and if you're relatively decent depending on the terrain, you can zip line your character forward along the ground, pop a parachute to go up in the air, and then wingsuit back down. So the thing is that it is a big empty world, but you can get from thing to blow up to thing to blow up relatively quickly, which is what makes it that much worse, that when you hit the wall that is the game that, like, okay, so I liberated this village, and now here's a fort. I'm going to go liberate that fort. So you go up to the fort, and then a helicopter shows up. Oh, fuck, helicopter, and I shot that one. Oh, but here's another one. Oh, it hit me with a missile. I'm dead. And you're like, yeah, I was having a lot of fun. I was blowing stuff up. I was throwing grenades all over the place, and shooting guys, grabbing helicopters, tethering a helicopter to a satellite dish, and then blowing the whole thing up, and jumping out of an airplane, and blah, 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 blah. And then you hit this loading screen that just completely grinds that momentum to a halt, because you're just, having fun. And then suddenly you're like, all right, guess it's going to be 5 more minutes while this bullshit loads. And that to me is the worst thing. I mean, the problem here is that I'm sure, or actually I already know that apparently the problem is not nearly as pronounced on the PC, and I would love to play it on the PC, but I don't know. I just at this point I can't play stuff on my PC as much as I used to. So
you've used up all the space and memory.
No, it's not that. It's just that my PC is so often just rendering a video that, rendering any, just for reference to people who don't know, rendering any Dojo video for Rage Select takes about 2.5 hours to do. And that's 2.5 hours where my PC is just fully committed to rendering a video. So it like a lot of times when I'm trying to we put out 10 videos a week if you count the Patreon videos, and so you're talking about roughly 25-ish, a little bit more actually because of the Sunday streaming videos, but 25-ish hours worth of rendering over the course of a week where my PC is just and that's not even counting editing and that sort of thing, or stuff like recording the podcast. So it's just easier for me to have the game on my PS4 where I could just load it up and be like, boo, 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 and then while my PC is all locked up rendering. So, but I mean, with the way that The Witcher 3 looks, with the way that Metal Gear looked this year, with the way that Fallout 4 looks, like, I just don't see the draw distance is also really low, which sucks because when you're flying along the ground in your wingsuit and you're seeing like the tops of flowers, like the ground will just look green, and then as you get closer to it, it pops in all these like little white flowers or whatever that are on the ground, and as you're going along the ground at this like Mach speed, you could see the line of draw distance about where all that stuff is coming in, and it's just like, man, really? Like, I just really, I can't, I need you guys to just, I need you to be better. I need you to be better at this shit than you are. So yeah, it sucks because other than that, like you mentioned Mercenaries. I love Mercenaries. Like, drop a tank on top of a base and then throw a bunch of satchel charges and blow that shit up. And
calling crew strikes and all of that.
Yeah, great. I love all that stuff. Dude, totally do it. Yeah, wonderful. 100% awesome. I just need the game to run at a decent clip, and I don't understand why it doesn't. So anyway, well, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they'll patch it the next day or two. That's one of the issues that I have, Nick, with going on and on about bugs, is that a lot of times it's hard because if Just Cause 3 gets patched tomorrow and all this shit goes away, and then somebody listens to this podcast in 2 weeks and there's like, I don't know what the fuck this asshole's talking about. Like, I don't know what he's on or what his problem is. Like, I got a PS4, I got Just Cause 3, runs like a dream. So
you see, that's why I fucking hate patches sometimes, because it's sort of like a fix it in post sort of line when you're making a movie or a video or something like that. It's like, oh, the game is not ready yet. Oh, we'll just release it and then have a patch ready for download later. They'll be fine. I'm like, oh, yeah, thanks. Why did you have it fucking be ready?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have to do the patches.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can kind of understand it with a game like Fallout 4, because a lot of times the bugs that you're fixing, it's going to take it's going to take the world playing your video game to see those bugs, right? So that you know what to fix. Like, it's hard a lot of times to QA test, some of these weird ass scenarios that people come up with online. But this is like, load the game, start playing. I can see this shit happening. Like, I literally, the part 2 of our dojo video for Just Cause 3 last week, I went in and edited out the load times because I wasn't about to make the viewers watch us sit on a load screen for 5 minutes. Like, fuck that, And at one point it was loading so slowly that I actually quit the game and restarted because that was faster. It was faster to literally exit the entire game, start it back up, let it load from scratch than it was to sit through the loading screen because it got some kind of memory leak problem. But again, hopefully it all gets patched and I sound like a dick face on this podcast. So, speaking of dick faces, yep, segue. You got to learn these segue lessons, Nick. I know you come onto the podcast for instructions. You got to learn about Jeff's just epically just smooth segues. Speaking of dick faces, Batman and Superman are dick faces. And if you're not, if you've been avoiding the Batman versus Superman movie, maybe tune out for the next couple of minutes because we're going to talk about this trailer, this teaser. Apparently the full trailer is actually coming out tonight on Jimmy Kimmel because Jimmy Kimmel's just got he just had that Civil War trailer like last week or whatever. But
isn't he like best mates with Ben Affleck or something? Could that be one of the reasons how he was able to use his connections?
No, I think that he's the guy who's embraced kind of geek and pop culture stuff to the point where people will bring, they'll bring Black Ops 3 on and play it on the show, a week or two before it comes out.
Then he slags off gamers, though, on his show.
Is that Jimmy Kimmel or is that other guy? Is there another guy?
It's Jimmy Kimmel.
Was he the one that was doing all that nonsense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
All right. Well, stupid Jimmy Kimmel. He doesn't, I don't know. When that happened, I will reiterate. Who the fuck cares about what late night talk show hosts say?
I really think that he doesn't care one way or another. I think he was just doing it for clickbait because those videos got the most views. So just because people are coming in to defend gaming in general.
Who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares what some old man who wears a suit and does late night TV has to say about video games? Fuck that guy. He's not a gamer. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't know anything. And so, who gives a...
Yeah, he's on TV as well. Most gamers are on the internet. So what the fuck?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah, in fact, I'd actually like to retract my saying fuck that guy because it's less than that. It's like, who cares? Who cares what Jimmy Kimmel thinks about you? Jimmy Kimmel is Jimmy Kimmel. It's not like he's your friend and you're like, hey man, why'd you go on TV and talk about me like that, Jim? I thought we were pals. Who cares? Some asshole.
It'll be like Martha Stewart was slagging off YouTube. You're like, she's still alive? Okay. Well, it doesn't really bother me. Okay.
I kind of take it one step even further than that, Nick, where I just go like, who cares? If I'm on this show, like, fuck Twitter. Like, you don't need to go onto Twitter and tell me how I don't understand Twitter. Well, fuck me. Just don't stop listening to me and whatever. I'm not actually saying fuck Twitter, and please don't stop listening to me because I need people to listen to my show. But it's more just kind of like, who cares? Go play I've got too many games to play to worry about what some late night talk show host has to think about Let's Plays. That's fine. You stick with the dying format of television. I'll be over here on the internet making, more content at this point than you've ever put out in your entire lifetime. Podcast 130, Nick. I don't even give a fuck of your nightly show. I've been having a daily show for 2 years, Jimmy Kimmel. Bullshit. Actually, Jimmy Kimmel probably has more than... Anyway, we're way off topic here. All right, Batman versus Superman. Skip forward a couple minutes if you don't want to hear about this. And this is just this little teaser, 49-second teaser. And it consists of pretty much one thing. Batman waking up, chained to a ceiling. He's got his bat trench coat on, apparently. Superman comes down. Got a bunch of, like, weird super soldiers that are all, like, kneeling. And he walks up and whips off Batman's cowl and, oh my god, it's Ben Affleck. You know what I really want is I want to do an edit of this where he pulls his cowl off and I just want to dub in like, holy shit, Ben Affleck? Like, you're Batman?
Affleck. No, I want to see is that like where his raccoon eyes are.
Oh yeah,
pull off the mic.
No, Superman.
I've never seen that in a Batman movie where the Batman has the raccoon eyes. Because he clearly has it in that shot.
Yeah, he's wearing eyeliner. Yeah, well, when Superman pulled off the cowl, he just really quickly, it was so fast you couldn't see, just licked his finger and was like, you got a little something there, you got a little something there. I was like, all right, now let's go back.
Now you look cool. Now I can go back to being mean.
Let's go back to glaring at each other. I'm still okay. Yeah, I think this is kind of a weird thing. I mean, I guess of all the movies that are coming out, Nick, Batman versus Superman, from the name to the first Comic-Con footage, has been spoiling itself for us, right?
I mean, what do you mean? I don't think so. I still don't know what the plot is exactly.
Really? You don't know what the plot of Batman versus Superman is? You know?
Well, no. Well, I'm thinking that it's drawing inspiration from The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller. Yeah. But then,
wait! And why do you think that? Because the first Comic-Con footage was of Ben Affleck in the cyber bat suit from The Dark Knight Rises, and Superman's coming down towards him.
The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
That's at the end of the movie. But obviously, they're going to go on a different direction because they got Wonder Woman, and apparently they're going to have Aquaman. Don't know where Jason Momoa is. I haven't seen him in any of the footage so far that we've seen.
I have to wonder whether or not that's going to be the very end of the movie. So my personal prediction when I look at this particular scene is, at first I was like, well, I guess we all know who wins in the fight between Cyber Batman and Superman, but I think that it's pretty clear that this is Superman doing some stuff and catches Batman and unmasks him, and then Batman's going to decide that Superman's too much of a threat, so he's going to put on the bat armor and then go and challenge him, and they're going to fight, and it's going to be kind of a draw, and then I don't know, fucking Lex Luthor's Brainiac or something's going to happen, and then they're going to have to join forces begrudgingly, and then at the end Wonder Woman and Aquaman show up and they go, hey, we're here too, and then they're like, we should form some sort of league, and then the Justice League, boom.
But that's people are thinking there's either a dream sequence, which would be really shitty if you ask me, if they put it in a trailer, and the other thing is that's not Superman, that's Brainiac. It's not Brainiac, sorry, Bizarro?
Yeah, dude, if Bizarro just actually looks fully like Superman, it doesn't have the S on his chest backwards, well, fuck you, Zack Snyder. I want rock-face Superman with a backwards S that's a dum-dum. That's one of the best parts about Brainiac.
Not really, because then it would kind of ruin the movie if Bizarro was just this, sloth-like Superman with a... What is he dressed like? He's got, a purple suit on or something, rather than blue? I can't remember.
I think that usually I just remember him wearing the exact same suit. It's just that the S is backwards on the chest. It may be slightly tinted a different color, slightly more purple than blue, but it still looks fairly blue. But yeah, I don't know. I like crazy looking Bizarro. I think you could make a dark, insane Bizarro, because the whole thing about Bizarro is that he's the opposite, so he doesn't understand what he's doing. He's trying to help by knocking down buildings and hitting you with his freeze vision and his fire breath. So
yeah, I'll be honest with you. I think that they're both retarded ideas. I don't want him to be Bizarro, but I also don't want it to be a dream sequence.
Yeah.
But then again, if that's the case, then why is Superman being such a total tool to Batman? Unless Batman did something really fucked up to warrant him giving him a stare, stare down. But then again, Superman has all these soldiers running around with machine guns, and they're clearly shooting at Superman at the in the previous trailer we saw. So,
I don't know. I kind of
it's a tricky one.
Well, I kind of think that because of the way that Batman is dressed, that it could be Batman is opposing some regime in the Middle East or something, and Superman is sent as an agent of the U.S. government to stabilize the area, and he comes across Batman fighting with insurgents. Or I don't know. I don't fucking.
But those soldiers are actually they have Superman logos on their shoulder pads.
Yeah.
So they're clearly hero worshipping Superman.
Yeah, I don't have any idea. All I know is that it does seem an awful lot it just seems like a lot to put into a trailer. I don't know. It's almost like, hey, Batman versus Superman, can you just shut up for a second? Star Wars is about to come out. We don't need to be reminded you're a thing. You could just wait. You're not going to overshadow Star Wars. You can kind of go fuck yourself. Star Wars is coming out, which is...
I think more people are excited about Suicide Squad than Batman v Superman. Because that trailer was pretty sick, you have to admit.
Yeah, I don't know. I got this whole problem with Harley Quinn that just doesn't go away, Nick.
Hey, dude, what's wrong with Harley Quinn? She's brilliant.
She's terrible. She's just awful.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. They fucked up her costume. They fucked up her backstory. She's also just terrible.
She can't dress up like a hot... That is... I prefer that they're going with this direction rather than the typical Harley Quinn costume.
Yeah, I don't know. My problem here might be that I just got done reading Mad Love, the trade paperback with her in it, and that's a fucked up story, Nick. Like she's mentally abused by the Joker. Like she is like a battered housewife, and
yeah. I saw it in the cartoon.
Yeah,
that was her first appearance. Was in the Batman animated series.
And I understand. I mean, like, that's an important character. I think that she's got interesting stories. I think that, I like the kind of stuff that focuses on her. But she's so goddamn popular. And I don't know. I also have liked every incarnation of her costume less and less and less. Like, I don't understand why you can't just have a girl in skin-tight spandex Harley Quinn costume where it's got to be like, I've got multicolored pigtails and my tits are hanging out. And it's just like, I think... Okay, never mind. I'm not going down this road again.
Okay, because we get into a massive argument about it, because I prefer what she's wearing now than the spandex.
Yeah, I don't.
It's like Wolverine dressing up in the yellow spandex in the X-Men movies. Would you want to see that? Would you really want to see that?
That's different, because I mean, like, if you just here's the thing. Did you play the DLC, the Batgirl DLC for Arkham Knight?
No.
Okay. In that DLC, in that engine, in the Arkham Knight rendering engine, they had a Harley Quinn that was dressed up in the traditional, in the costume that she has in, like, Batman the Animated Series. And she was fucking hot as hell. Like, it's skin tight, like, latex / like leather / pleather, whatever. Like, it's just super awesome. And I guess I just don't see the reason why you've got to go from that to, like, well, now she's wearing, like, booty shorts and a corset for, like, no real reason. Anyway, it doesn't, I can't, it's fine.
She's hot, man. Leave her alone.
It's fine. All right. Anyway, speaking of, I fucked up my own segue because I was going to say, speaking of Batman and Superman, well, I guess we're still talking about that sort of. Speaking of DC superheroes, let's get into this news. And our first story this week is that Warner Brothers Montreal is making 2 new DC Universe games. According to it's funny, a lot of the news stories that we've got this week, Nick, are either like trademarks, people hiring for a thing, or like ratings classifications, or like trophies. And all this stuff has come out because apparently that information just can't be kept secret at all. But apparently they're hiring for people to do 2 new AAA games, and they haven't said anything about what those games are or who they're going to be about. But this is the team that was responsible for Arkham Origins, which I thought was okay, not the best. Decent, but whatever.
Was that the third one?
Yeah, the only one that Rockstar didn't make.
Oh, we mean Rocksteady.
Rocksteady, right? Yeah, Rocksteady. God, yeah. Oh, yeah. God, can you imagine a Rockstar Batman game? Oh, man.
Sick.
Dan Houser writing a fucking Batman game? That shit would be rad. Oh, man. Okay, sorry. Made myself sad for a second. So I don't know. I guess the whole point of this is, who do we want to see WB Montreal make into a video? Well, okay, first off, what heroes do we think that these games are going to be centered on?
Green Arrow, maybe?
I think it's going to be a Suicide Squad game. There was some teasing at the end of Arkham Origins for Suicide Squad. With the Suicide Squad movie coming out, I think that it would be pretty easy for them to make a dark... That fits very well into their kind of dark and gritty aesthetic.
But how would that work, though? Well, it'd be like a co-op game that you have to play online?
No. Nah. Why? I mean, just make it pick your Suicide Squad guy, and then you're doing missions, right? Or maybe like some kind of Mass Effect 2, really quick, just tag some enemies for your AI teammates to beat up, and then you are, do your own fighting, right?
I don't see that working. I mean, not very well, at least.
Well, I don't necessarily think that it doesn't have to be the same system that Batman has. Because if it's the same system that Batman has, then that really only works for non-superpowered characters. So if I was going to make a guess based on that, it would probably be like, I don't know, Huntress, Robin, Nightwing, any of the Bat family, because I don't think that you make... Green Arrow, that's a pretty decent one, although Green Arrow does a lot more shooting people with a bow and arrow than he does fist fighting, which doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. But... You know
what I would want?
What's that?
Superman. I want a fucking good Superman game. How hard is it to provide us with a good Superman game?
I personally don't think at all, but the thing is that I can't count the number of times over the years, Nick, where people have said, well, you can never have a good Superman, take your pick, movie, comic, video game, rap battle, like Christmas-themed cookie, like spoiler for your Honda Civic. It doesn't matter because there's a good chunk of people who are just like, Superman, he's boring and he's too overpowered and you could never do it. Even though at least a half dozen times on this show, we've given people a blueprint on how to make a Superman game. Don't fucking set it in Metropolis. Set it in the space where you can fight manhunters and fucking Darkseid and like things that pose a threat to Superman as opposed to like, muggers, because muggers don't. But
there's never muggers though. I would love to have a mission where like there's a bank robbery going on and these buggers like just get freaked out when you just walk in through the door. That'd be pretty sick. It's just that I get annoyed. Like I remember when Man of Steel came out, the game, and you were just either fighting robots or you were fighting dragons or whatever they were. And that was really about it. It was very repetitive. Like, I want to have missions where, like, I don't know, a submarine is sinking to the bottom of the ocean. You have to go down and pick it up. Or a plane is about to crash and you have to save it. Just, like, have a variety of different things going on where you do feel like Superman. Don't have it be a sandbox game where there's nothing going on. You're just repeating the same thing over and over again.
Was there a Man of Steel video game?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was. That was the closest time that they got to a good Superman game. The first, 10 minutes, I'm loving it because you can fly all across Metropolis going really, really fast. You have all your powers. It feels really cool. But then you just go after an enemy and then another enemy and then again and again and again. And it turns out, your health is not your health. It's the city's health. So if the robots are destroying a building or something, then your health goes down. So you have to stop them that way, which I thought was a sort of smart mechanic.
It's an Xbox exclusive game from 2002? Is that what you're talking about?
I remember it being on PlayStation as well. I think maybe on PlayStation 2 anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was the one I was playing.
Okay. Weird. Crazy. I think that I don't think that I'm sorry if anybody from Warner Brothers Montreal is listening to this podcast. I don't think Warner Brothers Montreal has enough vision to make a Superman game. Maybe they do, but the problem that I'm having is that
would you prefer that to Green Arrow? That's what I want to know.
Well, dude, Superman's my favorite. I fucking love Superman. I think he's a great character that is woefully underused a million times. I think that what Zack Snyder has done in the Man of Steel in the Superman movies is quite, to my mind, atrocious. I don't think that everybody needs to agree with that because I want a comic book Superman. That's what I want. And I'm willing to compromise on the Flash TV show and Christopher Nolan Batman and a lot of other things. There are so many other people that have Superman's power set that you don't need to fucking ruin Superman in order to make that dumb fucking Man of Steel movie. You don't need to do it. You don't need to ruin Superman to make your Batman, to make a Justice League movie. Superman isn't dark, and I'd like to just have like an all-star Superman style video game.
Oh, sorry, I just realized it wasn't Man of Steel. It was Superman Returns, I believe. That my mistake. It was that reboot sequel thing that came out in the noughties, I think.
The one that had
Rachel McAdams?
Yeah, Kevin Spacey in it as Lex Luthor.
That's right. Yeah,
okay.
That was it.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm seeing that now. Xbox 360, PS2, Nintendo DS, 2006. So, yeah. But I mean, if they could make a solid Superman video game, by God, do it. I'd love to see that. I'd love to punch out Brainiac and Metallo, and have a weird section with Mr. Mitzi Pitalik where you have to play some kind of different thing, and like make being able to fly around all the time fun and fight a bunch of people. Great, I'd love.
You could have
that
the Justice League in it as well. So
yeah. As I've said numerous times on this podcast, I don't understand why they don't make a fucking Avengers game, because it seems like a no-brainer to me. But anyway, for DC, I don't know. Maybe it'll be Flash and Green Arrow. Maybe it'll be tie-ins to the TV shows. I have a feeling that's probably not the case. I think it'll probably be Suicide Squad and maybe another Batman game. I don't think that Warner Brothers is ready to let the Batman game franchise, Arkham Origins 2. That's what that would be my guess as to what I bet they are making, as Arkham Origins 2 and Suicide Squad. But as far as what I want, I mean, there's so many great DC. I'd love to see them. I'd love to see them make a Starman game. I'd really like to see that. That would be really cool. Or perhaps a Plastic Man game. I would like that as well, because I'm a big fan of Plastic Man. Just Justice League game. Just any of those could work. Anyway, so I don't know. Keep your eyes up for that. Next up on the hit parade, guess what game is coming back from the dead, Nick? Guess what just got a new trademark filed for a new game in a franchise that I know a small group of people have been wanting to see for about a million, billion, zillion years. What? Can you take one guess as to a franchise that is no longer with us, but was well beloved, that is getting brought back?
The Getaway. Oh wait, no, that's just wishful thinking. So
no, I said well beloved, Nick, not
not just well beloved by you, Nick.
Not just well beloved by you.
I can't think.
Onimusha. Capcom has filed a trademark for Onimusha. Nobody knows whether this is going to be a game. They haven't announced anything. There isn't anything. But just the fact that they've done something with that name is probably more interesting than a lot of what Capcom's been up to recently. The last Onimusha game was in 2006 for the PS2. So, yeah, I'm really... Have you ever played any of these games?
Is that the one where... Like they have like demons and stuff like that, and it's sort of like set in samurai sort of times?
Yeah, it's kind of like... It's kind of like Resident Evil, but it's like feudal Japan.
They had one with the French actor Jean Reno in it. I played that one. Oh, that's all right. That's quite cool.
Yeah. Actually, the main character of Onimusha, if I'm remembering correctly, the guy that was the main character in the first game, was actually, his face was modeled off of a Japanese model, I believe, at the time.
I can buy that.
So, yeah, which means more to you guys over there than it does to us, because I don't never seen that guy before. But the third one had Jean Reno in it. Pretty cool. Like I said, kind of Resident Evil, but with swords.
I thought
the
third one was hilarious because he's fighting in it's sort of in samurai times, and then it just cuts to Paris, and you see French people walking around, in cafes and stuff. Then all of a sudden, just demons come out of nowhere. They're like, "What the fuck? What the fuck is going on?"
God damn it! Fucking demons! Son of a bitch!
It was so badass, but it's just such a mind fuck.
Yeah, I only ever played the first one, so I never got a chance to play that one. But it's funny because
it would be like if a portal opened up and all the orcs from Mordor just like poured into Austin, Texas, and just started slashing people.
Like, hey guys, you guys let's go to some food trucks or something. I mean, we got a lot of them. Yeah, I think it's also funny because Onimusha 3 came out at the time when like John Reno was still a thing. No offense, John Reno, but you're not really a thing anymore. Or I don't know, maybe it was past that time. Maybe it was.
I think it was past it. It had been a while since the movie Leon the Professional came out.
Oh, he was in Ronin, and
was it Ronin? Ronin, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I think the Godzilla movie marked his grave for him.
Oh yeah.
So awful movie.
Mm-hmm. So let's see what the timeline looks like. Let's see, this would be. No, I don't know. No. Well, okay. Godzilla was 1998. Onimusha 3 Demon Siege was 2004. When did Ronin come out?
That was in the 90s as well, I'm sure.
Ronin film 1998. Oh, yeah. So John Reno's career had been way over by the time that he was in Onimusha. Actually, I should probably just look up John Reno's career here real fast. So let's
find a bunch of French movies in there.
2002, 2003. Let's see. Yep. After 1998 Ronin, there's a French movie. Oh yeah, that horrible movie Wasabi. Remember, I actually watched that. Yeah, French movie. Hotel Rwanda. French movie The Pink Panther. The Da Vinci Code. Flushed Away.
Oh yeah, he was in Hotel Rwanda. He was like in it for 5 minutes or something. That's okay.
Cross. Is that the freaking Alex Cross? It was Tyler Perry. Was Alex? Yep, he was in the Tyler Perry Alex Cross movie. Okay, well, hey, Jean Reno still got to work. Everybody, good for him. Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. One of my favorite actors. Resorted to a Tyler Perry movie. Jesus, it's a sad day for everyone here.
Nick, this is one of the craziest things of all time, and I don't know why this happened, and it still boggles my mind. But do you remember the Star Trek reboot, the J.J. Abrams Star Trek reboot?
Yes.
Do you remember when they're in like Star Trek court after Kirk cheats on the Kobayashi Maru, and they've got him all like in court, like in front of the whole class, right? You know that the judge in that court is Tyler Perry.
What?
No, the black guy in the court that is like addressing, and he's like, I think I should be able to face my accuser. And he's like, all right, go get the accuser. That guy who also shows up at the end of the movie to like make him captain or whatever, that's fucking Tyler Perry. And I'm like, how? Why? Who? What? Like,
he's being serious? He's not dressing up as Medea or whatever it is?
Nope. He's just Tyler Perry. Yeah, so there you go. Fun fact, everybody. All right, well, next up, Platinum Games, who I absolutely love and who this year came out with the absolutely fantastic Transformers Devastation, is apparently working on, according to the Australian Classification Group, a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. Their list
is... I guess.
What's that?
Yay, I guess. Are you really looking forward to that?
Sure. I like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't have any serious issues with them. I mean, granted, there hasn't been that horrible movie that came out, was it last year or whatever, was pretty terrible. But I don't know, man. Platinum Games seems to understand, like, they at least know how to make a decent fighting system. So if they can make a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game that has a decent fighting system, I'm fine with that. They also have shown between this and The Legend of Korra, which was okay-ish, that they also have the ability to kind of make these quick, cheaper, like kind of action-based cash-in properties. And they're generally pretty fun. They're usually not super expensive, and they're usually pretty fun. And, hey, I could use a good Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game because how long has it been since there's been one?
It's been a while. Yes, I agree on that. But, like, don't you think it's, like, just nostalgic for the sake of nostalgia? You know, like, Transformers, there's something you could do with it, but, like, it was really stupid back in the day, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, like, I was having a conversation with my cousin not long ago, and she had never heard of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I had to explain to her how big it was in the 80s and the 90s, and I explained to her the concept of these pizza-eating reptiles that walked and talked and did kung fu. She said that's like the dumbest thing she's ever heard of. I'm like, actually, thinking about it now, it is pretty retarded. Not as cool as like a robot turning into a truck or something, you know.
Okay, listen, you got to go back, all right, Nick. You got to go back to, you said it was your cousin you were talking to about this?
Yes.
You have to go back to your cousin, and you have to tell your cousin that concept is no less stupid than about half of the shit that was on TV in the 80s and 90s. Samurai Pizza Cats, the Cowboys of Moo Mesa, SWAT Cats. There are cats
I agree.
that fly an airplane. Like,
we don't see any SWAT Cat movies, do we?
Well, no, it's because
SWAT Cats was badass, man.
They should make a SWAT Cats movie. Is all I'm saying right now.
Right? Yeah.
I mean,
they shouldn't. They belong in the 80s. Okay, I don't see any reason for a SWAT Cats movie.
Yeah,
I mean, there's that little child in me that'll be going, "Yay!" But it's kind of stupid.
I mean, fucking Voltron, for God's sake. Why are the robots lions? Why don't they start together as Voltron instead of forming into Voltron? Why doesn't Voltron use the gummy bears? They're bears. They drink this juice,
yes,
and they bounce. And what? I don't.
I agree, it's dumb, but there are very few cartoons that can be adapted really well. Like Gargoyles, for example. I thought that was a fantastic show and has potential to be sort of remade today. But, you know, the Turtles, though, you know, I mean, like, when I think of the Turtles, I don't think of the new movie. I think of, like, either the cartoon show or those terrible live-action movies that they made, which are actually so bad that they're hilarious. So fun to watch them that way.
Oh man, I cannot wait for this combat section, Nick. I can't. You're pissing on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I'm not. I was a huge fan of them. I had the lunchbox, I had the costume and all of that, but you know, I'm 28 years old now. I'm sort of like old enough to know that it was a retarded concept, you know.
Oh my!
I just don't think that it needs to be dragged on into this generation. They're a product of their time, the 80s. Okay?
Sure.
They don't need a 21st century, you know, reboot.
Yeah, I gotcha. No, I understand. I mean, hell, you're preaching to the wrong choir here because, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, you know, I hope that Platinum Games is just basically making these games to save up their money, because make another Bayonetta. I want Bayonetta 3. I'm interested in having Vanquish 2. There's a bunch of things. Make a new Infinite Space, you know, or Wonderful 102, or fuck sake, make Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance 2. I don't care. I would probably rather have that than any of the rest of a lot of these other things. But they're already making a bunch of other stuff. Star Fox Zero. Oh, they're working with Nintendo for that. Scalebound, the new Nier game, bunch of different stuff. Anyway, I don't know. Good news for some people. I'll tell you what else is good news. That you probably, I don't know if you did this, Nick. Probably not. But there was a demo that came out on the PS4. It was like 3 or 4 weeks ago for a game called Indivisible. Did you see that?
No.
It's free. You can download it. Okay. It was strange because it was actually a playable prototype that was part of this crowdfunding project by these ex developers from Skullgirls. Made this company called Lab Zero that they wanted to kickstart this game, and they were looking to get $1.5 million. Apparently, they did not hit their goal. They were $1 million away, and Indiegogo allowed them to extend their Indiegogo campaign for another 20 days. And today, let's see, that's December 2nd. Yep, that is today. They managed to hit their goal. So with that extension, they managed to get all the way up to $1.57 million, $1.567 million. So Indivisible is now fully funded. So good for you guys. It seems like a cool game. It's not coming out till 2018, which is a little bizarre, but you know, I think it looks like a fun game. We got a chance to play that demo. I think the demo is still up on the PS4. Anybody that has PS4, you can go download it for free and check it out. It's a fun kind of little weird RPG / platformer kind of thing that I think is pretty cool. So glad that those guys managed to come in at the last minute and get their shit together. So yeah, and that's pretty much it. But I was also reading a story the other day on Gamasutra that was like the people who ran like the worst performing video game Kickstarter in Kickstarter history. They got like 0.3% of their full goal.
Okay, ouch.
Yeah. All right, well, that's just a quick note. But next up, all right, this is a thing. Nick, I don't know if you have been seeing this thing. I saw this thing last week and kind of was waiting for this part of the story to even talk about it. Do you know the Dead or Alive beach volleyball series? Of course you do.
Of course I do, yes.
Of course you do. Everybody knows what we're talking about. Dead or Alive girls in bikinis, bumping each other with their butts, taking pictures of them, playing volleyball, jumping up and down, boogada, you know, the boobs going up and down, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
Okay. So here's the way that this story goes as near as I can tell. And I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people in the comments to tell me that it went a different way. All I ask if you're going to refute this is that you provide honest-to-God verified source material and not just like, well, I heard. Okay? That's not a big deal. All right. Koei Tecmo announced Dead or Alive Extreme 3. And what they said was, we're making Dead or Alive Extreme 3. We're releasing it in Japan. We're not putting out a European or North American release unless there is significant interest in it. We're not planning to localize it. We're planning to just put it out in Japan. Now, most PS4s are, as near as I can tell, right, cross-platform. So if you want to buy a Japanese copy of Dead or Alive, stick it in your PlayStation, play beach volleyball, bada bing, bada boom. Okay? So that is its own thing, right? We didn't even report on that because it was like, who the fuck cares? It's just Dead or Alive, whatever. Fast forward to a Facebook post by the company where they said, the Dead or Alive Facebook said, we do not bring, this is all poorly translated, we do not bring DOA X3 to the West and won't have any planned change in the future. Thank you for asking. So apparently this was part of some kind of outreach thing, and then people were kind of badgering this account to ask why. And the response was this. Do you know many issues happening in video game industry with regard to how to treat female in video game industry? We do not want to talk those things here, but certainly we have gone through in last year or two to come to our decision. Thank you. So this, Nick, as you could probably imagine, sparked off a huge amount of people who took this one poorly worded tweet to mean that Tecmo Koei and Team Ninja were not releasing Dead or Alive Extreme 3 in Europe or North America simply because they were afraid, I guess, of backlash from Anita Sarkeesian or Brianna Wu or fucking, I don't even like the term, but social justice warriors or blah, 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 blah. Like,
why now?
Well, today they actually, and this is the thing. So all that happened last week, right? And I was like, okay, well, you know what? I think that's kind of shitty. Like, I'm not really a big fan of Dead or Alive Extreme 3, but not releasing a game just because people are going to be upset about it, I'm not really interested in that. I think that if you guys are making this game, like, it'd be one thing if you were like, well, I don't know if we should make this anymore or blah, blah, blah. You know, if you want to have a big conversation about whether Dead or Alive beach volleyball is even a thing that should be made or whatever, that's a whole other conversation. But if you're making your booby jiggling, jumping, bikini bumping, beach game, but then not putting it out in the West because you're afraid that what people are going to be upset about it on Twitter, that's shitty. I don't like that. Like, that's just fucking go ahead and do it. But if that was the actual reason, and that's the reason that I was waiting, is because today Tecmo Koei actually responded with this statement. The comments recently made by an employee regarding Dead or Alive Extreme 3 on the official Dead or Alive Facebook page only reflect that individual's opinion and not the opinion or business strategy of Koei Tecmo Games. We remain focused on delivering the best in fighting entertainment to our fans around the world while consciously respecting and strategizing to support the different global audience that Dead or Alive franchise lends itself to. Dead or Alive Extreme 3 remains in development and is still planned for release in Japan and Asia only. So I think, if surely there are going to be a few people out there who are just going to be like, you don't know the real story. Fucking tinfoil hat, Alex Jones, 9/11, right?
How are they thinking of their fans around the world if they're only thinking about their fans in Asia?
Well, I honestly think, okay, so here's the thing. I honestly think that this is just a company that looked at the profit margin that they made off of the last Dead or Alive beach volleyball game in the United States and Europe as opposed to Japan and went, it's not worth the work. It's not worth the work to localize it and then rate it and then pay the cost to get it put up on servers or print copies and ship them, that all that is just not worth the amount of return that we're getting when we could probably release another skimpy. Because here's the thing, Nick.
You see, I buy that. If they explain that, then I would be fine with it. Not like this bullshit because we might offend some people out there who have, grown more sensitive over the past few decades.
But see, the thing is that that's not what they're saying. Their original statement when they announced they were making this game was that they're not releasing it, that they're only releasing it in Asia, and they'll release it in the West if there is enough interest in it. Then this Facebook shit happened, which is just some community manager shooting his mouth off, and then they come out again to say, no, we're not releasing it because we never planned to release it unless there was a lot of attention that was paid to it and people really wanted it to come out in the West. So, if and to put that in perspective, if you have 10,000 people who want to see the new Dead or Alive in the West, that might not be worth it for them to go through the entire effort of doing that. That might not be worth the time and effort that they're going to have to go into to localize the game and get it rated and get it shipped and get it. There's a lot of shit that has to happen in order to bring a game like that over to another area. So if they just looked at their profit projections and went, it's not worth it, then it's not worth it. It's only this Facebook thing that has called up this whole other thing. And like I said, I'm totally with you. If that's the case, if they are afraid of people who are upset with them on Twitter, and that's the reason they're not bringing Dead or Alive X3 over here, well, that's stupid because you're still making the game. It's still available. I can still import a copy from PlayAsia and play it here all my live long day. But I don't think that that's the case because the official statement doesn't say that. So I don't know.
I highly doubt it. If you can't play beach volleyball with a bunch of bikini-clad girls, then what can you do in this day and age? So nothing to do with profits and margins.
Come on, Nick, this is America. You could rip somebody's head off and literally shit down their throat in a video game, and you'll get an M rating. But we can't have beach volleyball, man. We can't have it.
I like to think that we have thicker skin than that. Otherwise, what really is the world coming to? The only way you can sort of make headlines these days is, with a game is what was that really racist Tetris slave game, which was making headlines like the past year or so ago? Do you remember that?
No, I don't know what in the world you were talking about, sir.
Yeah, no, it was on all of these YouTube channels about this game where you have a slave ship and you have to put all these Africans into the bowels of the ship and figure out how much space you have and how many you could put in. So the more Africans you could put into the ship, the more money you could make.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I swear to God, I didn't make that up. It's a real game.
Holy shit! I think that's a thing. I honestly do, but damn. Yeah,
it's not even that. It doesn't even look that impressive. Everyone was talking about, it's what's this big? This is just one douchebag who designed this game by himself, and yet it's in all of these news channels.
Wow. Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah, I don't know. So in any case, I don't think that this game got canceled. I don't think that I don't think that they're not bringing it here because Tecmo, like, here's the thing that I and I'm not going to harp on this for too much longer because I've already been harping on it quite a bit. But the last Dead or Alive that came out here was they had all of these costume packs that you could download to put the fighters in Dead or Alive 5. Whichever the last one that came out was.
Why would you want to download costume packs?
Because it put them.
Isn't that the whole point of the game? Is to have less costumes?
No, because
to play the game.
Because you're swapping out like the gym shorts and tank top for like the world's tiniest bikini and a piece of Scotch tape, right?
It should be like the other way around. Like you start off the game with the girl wearing like one of those biohazard suits, and then you just download over time.
Strip Dead or Alive. Until
finally, like, you can have like the nude pack or something.
Okay, so here's just a quick thing. We all know that VG Charts is not the most reliable thing in the world, but according to VG Charts, Dead or Alive Extreme 2 on the Xbox 360 sold less than about 250,000 copies worldwide. So if that's what you're looking at as far as like sales go, you could definitely see where the company might be like, no, I don't think so. I don't think that we're going to waste our time for 250,000 sales. The original Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball, according to VG Charts, and again, VG Charts is not the best, says that the first Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball was a little over 500,000 copies worldwide over the course of its entire run. So we live in a day and an age where, you know, the CEO of Square Enix is stepping down because Tomb Raider only sold 8 million copies or something like that. Like, going to the work to put these games out in various parts of the world just to get, you know, 250,000 or 500,000 sales is the sort of thing that a responsible company wouldn't do, regardless of whether people were upset with them on Twitter. Be like, yeah, we're not going to do that. Anyway, enough of that. I just feel like I'm going around in circles here. Next up, some interesting news for PlayStation 4 owners. Apparently, Shuhei Yoshida, I really hope I'm saying his first name right, came out on Twitter and said that Sony is working on remote play from your PlayStation 4 to your PC, which I find a little bizarre but fascinating, where you can actually play your PlayStation 4 games stream them from your PlayStation 4 over your local network to your PC and play them there.
Why?
Well, it's kind of like the Vita, I guess. Kind of like the way that they want to stream to the Vita is that if you have a good enough internet connection, I mean, you know, it means you could stream it to a different TV with just like a laptop or something like that. I mean, I think technically speaking, I don't know if you could stream it over the internet, but I don't know. I mean, it's just an interesting way to kind of get that game. I mean, I don't know. It seems like all the rage these days, right? Xbox One is doing it as well. You can stream Xbox One to your PC, and I'm kind of with you. But I fully recognize that I sit in a room that is designed. I'm right now sitting in front of a TV, 2 monitors, my laptop, my PC, my PlayStation 4, and a bookshelf literally filled from top to bottom with games and gameplay systems. So for other people, this might have more of a like, oh, I want to turn on my PS4 and then play, on my laptop so that I'm not taking up the TV because my roommates want to watch Spider-Man. I don't fucking know, whatever. So it could work. I mean, at least this remote streaming will have I hope it will have support for the right number of buttons, unlike the PlayStation Vita, which fucking doesn't have enough buttons. Bitch.
Calm down, Jeff.
How do you do that? How do you do that, Sony? How does nobody go, hey, you know, most games these days use the 2 shoulder buttons on both sides as like a lot of the primary inputs for your games? Do you think that we should worry that our handheld doesn't have those 2 buttons, even though we've made it super easy for people to port PlayStation 3 games over to? Nah, it's all right. They can just use the back touchpad as the other 2 buttons. Fuck you, Sony. That's horse shit. Fucking make a Vita that has 4 buttons on it. Do it now. I'll buy it. I'll buy it now. Drop the price to $100 and put 2 buttons on the top of it. Maybe, if you're nice. Go to the store and buy one, motherfuckers. All right. Anyway, you've never. I mean, you don't have a Vita, right?
No, I don't.
Have you ever used PlayStation Now? Yeah, the streaming service, They'll let you play
No.
booster games?
I guess I could. It's just that like I got my brother's PlayStation 3 like right next to me since he's off to university, and I just don't really see the need to use it because all the games I want to play he already has.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yep, kind of the exact same situation.
Yeah, it's just like why? I mean, like it's a great idea, I think, for people who probably had to sell off their PlayStation 3s if they're not working anymore. So, but like the fact that you can't buy them, you had to rent them. That's the shitty thing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, speaking of crazy games that are on the PlayStation 3, guess what snuck onto the PlayStation 3 store yesterday, Nick?
Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
You are correct. They just keep on releasing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Back in last year, remember they put it out on the 360, but it was the cell phone version of it on the 360. I think that everybody should go back and play Grand Theft Auto San Andreas because it doesn't hold up super, super well. Like the controls for San Andreas are a little wonky in comparison. Like there's been a lot of work that's been done on the Grand Theft Auto series over the years, and I think that I still think San Andreas is a great game. It's got a great soundtrack. It looks really good for when it came out and whatever. But it is kind of, I'm going to go on record as saying that this game, San Andreas, is one of those games that I might be interested in actually seeing like a full HD remake of. Like go in and actually do some work on it, right? Like not a huge amount of work, but I don't know, maybe straighten out some of the faces, some of the animations, get the controls down better, maybe work a little bit more on the cars and textures and stuff like that.
I wouldn't mind like just checking out just because I remember that game had like 3 cities. It was like Los Santos, had San Fierro. Did it have a Vegas city as well?
Yep.
Yeah,
the Vegas.
And I'm just thinking about like how the GTA 5 has only 1, and I'm thinking like how big must those cities been in San Andreas? Because it feels bigger in my memory, but surely it wasn't.
No, I think that the San Andreas in GTA 5 is big. But then you've also got that huge map. And there's like a couple of other smaller towns. I guess, no, but that's not true because in San Andreas, there were a bunch of little towns in between.
And you also had like forests. You had like deserts as well. It had like a whole variety of different sort of landscapes.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, maybe I need to go back and just play that. I mean, I think we played it for Sunday streaming when it came out last year, but we never actually got out of San Andreas. Like we never progressed the story to the point where you get out of San Andreas. But
you mean Los Santos? Los
Santos.
Yeah.
Sorry. So I don't know. Maybe who the fuck am I kidding? What am I sitting over here? Maybe I'll add another game to the list, Nick. Maybe we just stack up a little bit higher. Maybe I'll go back and play a game I've already played because I'm a stupid idiot. All right. Next up on our, I think this is the time where we have to. Yep. We got to kick the gears into fast forward. European ratings groups Peggy is listing a remaster of Shadow Complex for the PC. Fan-fucking-tastic.
You remind me of Shadow Complex. I can't remember it.
Shadow Complex was a Metroidvania game that was made by a company called Chair that was about a guy that was going on a picnic with his girlfriend in the mountains, and then he stumbles onto this huge subterranean complex that's full of soldiers that are getting ready to launch an armed insurrection to destroy the government of the United States of America, and being an ex-soldier, he has to take them down one at a time, gaining superpowers, fighting giant robots, and doing all kinds of crazy shit. Written by master homophobe Orson Scott Card, or I don't know what we're calling Orson Scott Card these days. History's Greatest Monster. There's another one. Orson Scott Card. It was a fantastic game. It was also a game that you probably didn't play because it was an Xbox 360 exclusive.
That's why. Yeah.
I don't know if you have an iPhone, but Chair went on to make the Infinity Blade series. As soon as I could tell, I've always wanted to play, but it's always been an iOS exclusive type of thing. But yeah, if this comes out, or when it comes out on the PC, Nick, you should play the shit out of it. It's about an 8-hour game. It's really, really, really fun. They did a super good job at making a Metroidvania where it's like you get new powers just just when you're about to be tired of the powers that you have, you get a brand new thing. You're just like, oh, great. Now the game is like super fun again. So it is pretty freaking awesome. Can't wait for that. And it'll give me a reason to go back and play Shadow Complex again.
Oh.
All right, next up, speaking of things that have already come out, coming to different platforms, apparently the Taiwanese rating board has hinted that a fan favorite Rocket League is coming to the Xbox One later on. Nick, have you played Rocket League? Car Soccer? We played it last week on Sunday streaming.
No, I've seen other people playing it, though.
Yeah, super, like one of those things where people really love that game. People that are into it are super into it. In fact, people that are into it won't shut the fuck up about it. We got one guy on our website who's so into it that every time it is mentioned, well, first of all, after it came out, he was just like in the comment section for every game for like 3 months was like, play Rocket League, play it, I want to see it, play it. And then I played it and I was like, eh. And then we played it for our Sunday stream, and he was like, oh, good, now Jeff will love Rocket League. And I'm like, I'd rather shoot ghouls in the wasteland. I mean, that's just me. It's just
fuck you, Jeff! Rocket League!
But yeah, if this comes over to the Xbox One, I don't know. It's interesting because the PS4, and if you have Rocket League on the PC, you can play with people that are on the PS4 if they have the right kind of game started. So I wonder if this will have cross-play between all three. That would be really interesting. Next up, apparently Amplitude, that was kickstarted. Do you know Amplitude, Nick? Do you know the game?
No.
It's a harmonics game. It's like a rhythm game. It was one of their first rhythm games before, I believe. Rock Band. I don't know the exact chronology of that, but apparently they kickstarted a sequel coming out January 5th on the PlayStation 4. We got a full soundtrack. It is a bunch of craziness from bands that I have literally never heard of, including C418, Single White Infidel, Sect featuring Noel LeBlanc and Naoko Takamoto, Danny Baranowski, George and Jonathan, Computer Controller with K's, Jim Guthrie, Darren Korb. I know who that is. He did the soundtrack for Bastion. It was incredible. A bunch of harmonics tracks. Yeah. Ingrid Lucas, remixed by Patrick Zoso and Nick Bartouche. I'm like, no idea who any of those people are. No idea whatsoever. But yeah, I don't know. We'll check it out when it comes out. And for people who kickstarted that, glad you're getting it. All right. And our next to last story about a thing getting a re-release. Apparently Square Enix, Nick, is just they're not content to let Final Fantasy VII be on almost every platform. Apparently the port to the PC version of Final Fantasy VII there was a leak of a bunch of trophies for the PlayStation 4 for that game. So apparently they're putting out Final Fantasy VII, the port, not the remake, on the PlayStation 4. And at this point, I have to wonder why. Why do you keep releasing Final Fantasy? There's so many places for a person to play Final Fantasy VII.
It feels like we've been talking about Final Fantasy VII for 5 years. Probably because we have. Getting kind of sick of it, to be honest.
If I'm not mistaken, I've been talking about Final Fantasy VII since 1997. Yeah. So it's more like it's getting closer to 20 years at this point that the game industry has been talking about Final Fantasy VII because apparently it came out in January 31st, 1997. And I'll go one further because I was playing the demo for it in 1996 when Tobal #1 came out. So, yes, we will never stop talking about Final Fantasy VII, apparently, ever. All right. Hey, you remember Fez? Did you ever play Fez, Nick?
No. What's that?
It's the Phil Fish game on the Xbox. Oh, I guess it was an Xbox exclusive. I think it came out of the PC as well, though. It's a little like pixel guys, and you turn the world left and right, and then the way that you turn the world makes different. Like if you turn a thing, then things become platforms that were not platforms before. You would probably know what I'm talking about if you had managed to play it. Let's just check here real fast. Xbox 360, PS4, PS3, Vita, Windows, Linux, Mac OS. So you probably missed the re-release of it on the PS3. It was this thing that was in development for a long time and was kind of interesting and sort of brilliant in a few weird ways, but the developer of it was not a real great person, Phil Fish. And Fez 2 was announced, and then the internet got all up his ass, and then he was like, fuck it, and he closed it all down. Anyway, I'm telling you...
Was that a movie? Was that the indie movie?
Yeah, Indie Game the movie. He was one of the guys in Indie Game the movie. The one that kind of came off like a big tool bag from Canada, right? Who was just like... Anyway, but apparently 3 years after Fez came out, they are releasing a $100 limited edition physical release of Fez that comes in a giant book that comes with the PC and the Mac version and is limited to 500 copies that they're selling for $100 a pop. It looks like a really, pretty. It's got a book that's got all the like writing and stuff on it from Fez, and it looks real nice. Yeah, so there's that. I personally would never spend $100 on anything video game related, but that's just me. So. This actually might be one. I don't know. If I was going to spend $100 on something, this is a really pretty set of packaging for a game that was pretty decent. So, yeah. And last but certainly not least, Nick. Okay, so folks, for those of you who don't know this, Nick does, but everybody else doesn't. So when Metal Gear Solid 5 came out, there was a cinematic that came up that people dug out of the code of the game that had to do with nuclear disarmament. For those of you who don't want to know anything about this, you can skip over it. I'm not going to go into details about what exactly it was, but apparently Konami has now announced what actually has to happen for this cinematic to occur in your game naturally and not just be a thing that is hacked out of the source code. You know what I'm talking about, right, Nick? You remember this cinematic?
Wait, you're not talking about the big battle you have with Liquid Snake on that island or something, are you?
No. This is another one that came out where it's like, it was talking about nuclear disarmament. They have like a little plaque that they unveil that, and everybody's like standing around on Mother Base. And there's like it starts with like an overhead shot of a bunch of like tanks and stuff. And Kaz talking about how like they're keeping the world safe and they finally managed to disarm the last nuke and blah, 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 blah. But for how long, et cetera, et cetera.
You have to do it like multiplayer, right?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So that was what people had assumed, but it's now been confirmed. So here is the 4 things that you have to do in order to make this cinematic happen. 1, must have completed mission 31, which, if I'm not mistaken, was the last mission of the game. 2, you must not own or currently be developing a nuclear weapon. If you have any in stock, you must dismantle them. 3, certain conditions related to nuclear proliferation must be met on the regional server for your corresponding game platform, which are 4, all nuclear weapons on the regional game server corresponding to your console or platform must have been dismantled. So, in other words, the amount of nukes on your platform, on the platform server, must be 0. So that's kind of interesting because you can use the infiltration part of Metal Gear Solid to sneak onto somebody else's base, steal their nukes, and then disarm them in your own base. On the flip side of that, you can build a nuke on your base to try to deter people. I believe. I don't know exactly what building a nuke does. I never used it. I think you might be able to use it. I don't know if it makes things easier in a case. I don't know. But Konami said on Twitter that as of November 29th, this is the number of nukes on each platform respectively. PS4, 188. PS3, 140. Xbox One, 52. Xbox 360, 35. I think you could do it, Xbox One. Now, I want you to guess how many are on Steam, Nick. How many nuclear weapons are on Steam? You know the numbers from the rest of them. 188 PS4, 140 PS3, 52 for Xbox One, and 35 for Xbox 360. How many do you think there are on Steam?
285.
11,473. So, yeah, good luck with that, PC Master Race, because I know that there was a whole Reddit thing where there were 2 Reddit groups that popped up, one that was devoted to trying to disarm nukes and one that wanted to try to keep the nukes out there because people are assholes on the internet, or I don't know why, fucking whatever. But, yeah, I think this is really interesting. And you know what? Out of all the horse shit on, like, this kind of makes a certain amount of sense. I still don't like the online and the invasions and stuff like that. I honestly think that you should be able to just be like, it would be more interesting if the way that they had set up the multiplayer for the single player invasions in Metal Gear Solid 5 was like, if you opt out of building any nukes, or you have a nuke but you dismantle it, if you have no nukes, then allow me to then opt out of the invasion sequences, right? Make it like when in Dark Souls you are human, then you can be invaded by other people. But if you're not human, then you can't be invaded by other people. In Bloodborne, if you ring the bell to bring people into your game, then invaders can come as well. But if you don't ring the bell, you can't just be randomly invaded. Dark Souls 2, you can be randomly invaded, but that's because Dark Souls 2 is kind of an asshole. But I think that would be really interesting to keep this going as a meta game. And I think it's kind of smart. Like, I think it's kind of an interesting concept that if it had been a little bit more explicit, because I don't know about you, Nick, but I don't remember, and again, as people have pointed out numerous times on this website about me, I'm apparently just making shit up, just lying to your face person about Metal Gear Solid 5, but I don't really remember Metal Gear Solid 5 ever being really explicit about, like, all right, you beat the game, now go disarm everybody else's nukes on your server, like emphasizing that as a thing to do instead of just making it a secret, which I think is kind of a mistake, I guess, because it would...
That's what happened with me the first time around. After you defeat Skullface, you're like, oh, is that the end of the game? And you sort of just carry on playing, and you're like, oh, there's new cutscenes I haven't seen before. It doesn't tell you that. It just feel like they have some things you have left over to finish, and I was just doing it for the sake of doing it. But I could have ended the game right there.
Right.
It doesn't tell you, though.
Right. Yeah, it works up to what comes after that. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just maybe another example of how Metal Gear Solid 5 needed to be maybe a little bit more explicit, or at least give you more hints about this shit. Like, this is, people found this cutscene by hacking the game apart, and it took Konami, like, this is on Konami's website, telling people what to do, like what the thing that they need to do is. Like, it's kind of ridiculous to imagine that people would figure this out for themselves by making concerted effort to reduce the entire number of nuclear weapons on servers. It's 6 months after the game is out, 4 or 5 months after the game is out, to zero. Like, it's kind of a ridiculous assumption if you don't give people a little bit of a push in the right direction. I don't know. Maybe they did, and I'm just forgetting it. Maybe they totally had a thing where they talked about it in the game where Kaz is like, yeah, you should go log on to other people's games and take their nukes. And I'm just like, didn't see that because I didn't do it. But anyway, well, Nick, in spite of the fact that we had very little news, we've still managed to ramble on. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to take a break. We're going to be back in just a moment to answer your questions. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back in just a second. Everybody, welcome back to the Rage Select Podcast. And it's time for questions. It's time to answer. You've got questions. We've got answers.
We pretend to have answers, though.
All of the answers are pretty much just dick. That's the answer.
Right.
I mean Richard. Anyway, that was weird non sequitur. Our first question this week comes in from Ken, and Ken says, hey, Ragers, I was wondering if you could chime in and give your opinion on a discussion colleges and I have been having regarding social issues and popular media. Do you feel it is fair to hold games that are released in 2015 to whatever social standards we have equilibrated? Okay, I don't know. That we have set ourselves at the same time. We're currently in a period where discussion on topics such as gender equality, gay and trans rights, environmental responsibility, and wealth disparity are very fluid and changing every day, with games that have been planned and developed for a number of years now being held to a bar that previously wasn't there. Should it be on the developers to modify their product to fit the social climate, or should we, the public, employ an understanding or even a moratorium for these sorts of social issues in our gaming media? Sorry for the long question. Thanks for everything, Ken. See, Ken's asking them heavy questions, Nick. It's like, get you in trouble with people questions when you answer them. People are like,
That's
Oh,
a deep question.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But between this and our Dead or Alive conversation, I feel like we're getting into it this week. So, well, Ken, I personally think that I could definitely understand how it seems unfair, right? Like, you have a game that was created in an era or, in a certain time period or started development 4 years ago, and part of the story is something that is now looked on in a different way by popular culture by the time the game comes out, and everybody's like, fucking this game is terrible, blah, 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 blah. And is that fair? Not really super fair. By the same token, I don't really think you could just totally ignore that. Like, I think you still... I think I don't know.
I think it's a slow progression, to be honest. I mean, like, if we're just getting used to the idea, then the games will sort of reflect that. I mean, like, I remember when Mass Effect 3 came out, and you were able to have like a gay love interest for the first time if you were Dude Shepard, and it felt very genuine. It didn't feel sort of like tacked on, so I kind of like that. I wouldn't want to be playing a game and just have like a transgender person just for the sake that of wanting to be politically correct with transgender people. I want it to be written well and for it to make sense within the story.
Yeah. I honestly think that for me, kind of the crux of the question comes down to I think that I have a hard time. Like, I keep thinking and talking about this with various people, and my position changes as time goes on. Like, I like to just talk to people, and sometimes you talk to people, and you're just like, oh, I never thought about it like that. Whatever. Like, I think that there is a divorce that probably doesn't actually exist. It's probably just a made up shit in my mind between like criticizing a thing and the success of a thing. Right? Like, if you don't like the big boob sorceress in Dragon's Dogma, I don't think that you should feel like you can't talk about that. On the other hand, I don't feel like Dragon's Dogma shouldn't be a thing just because you don't like the big boob sorceress in Dragon's Dogma. Like, I think you could talk about it and talk about why you don't like it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the conclusion of if you decide that you don't like it is that game should no longer be available. It's kind of what we were talking about with the Dead or Alive, right? Like, you could talk.
Yeah, but in Dead or Alive, the boob mechanic is the crux of the game, though.
Well, that's true.
It's just like one character has nothing to do with the rest of the game.
That's very true. But I think it's possible. I think it's possible to live in a world where we can look at something like Dead or Alive, talk about it, talk about people who don't like it, why they don't like it, talk about people who do like it, why they do like it, and still have that game exist, because I'm not really a fan of banning that stuff, right? Like, I think that you could talk about why you don't like it, but I just don't like the idea of getting rid of it altogether. Because I make this comparison all the time, Nick. Horror movies. Horror movies have a track record of not being the best place to be a lady, right? Slasher films,
unless you're a virgin.
Unless you're a virgin, right? Slasher films tend to get into this thing about brutally murdering people, especially ladies, all the time. It's not a super great place, but I don't think that there shouldn't be any more slasher movies. I don't think that there shouldn't be. I don't know. I think that it's better to talk about this stuff. So, Ken, in answer to your question, where you say, do you think that developers should modify their products to fit the social climate? I think that's the developer's choice. I think that the developer wants to try to keep up with what the social norms are at the time. That's their choice. But if they decide not to do that, I think it's perfectly fine for people to. His other side of this question is, should we publicly employ an understanding or even a moratorium for these sorts of social issues in our gaming media? Okay, I don't think that a moratorium, I'm not a fan of telling people you can't talk about that, right? Like, because I feel like people should be allowed to talk about shit, regardless of what their position on it is, and regardless of whether you agree with them or not. I hate the idea of telling people to shut up. An understanding, though, that's probably a better place to go, of saying, hey, you know what? This started its life a long time ago when things were different, especially now, Nick, because things change so quickly. It used to be that you have to have a whole generation die off in order to make a big social change. And now it's like, this world right now looks dramatically different than 2010 as far as certain types of social issues and stuff like that goes. So, I think people should be allowed to talk about stuff, but I don't know. Anything else to add, Nick? It's kind of a
I totally agree with you. I hate this new fad of bullying people who don't particularly agree with your viewpoint. Mm-hmm. In fact, South Park just took the piss out of that with their most recent season. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
Oh yeah,
mm-hmm. Yeah, with PC Principle.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what this guy is just talking about there. So, my stance on it is, the game should follow the betterment of the story. Don't have a transgender character in it for the sake of it being a transgender character.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If what she or he wants to achieve in the game makes sense to the player, then absolutely, but not for the sake of being PC. I can't stand that shit. So
okay. All right. Well, let's get out of there because I'm afraid of stepping into some landmines and get to a much easier question. This one comes in from Postmodernism, who says, "Good evening, purveyors of all that is Rage Select. Greetings from far away, an hour east of Austin. Spending time with family has made me seek your advice on being surrounded by family or friends whose only interest is football. Have you been in a situation where you are needing to be social with a group of people who have vastly different interests than you? In this situation, what is your response? Do you, 1, keep to yourself? 2, try to engage in awkward conversation, a topic you know nothing about? 3, ask if anyone is excited about The Force Awakens in the middle of the conversation? And 4, the Jason Murphy answer, whatever that would be. Your Patreon subscriber, Postmodernism." And he says he's going to be in town on December 8th for a space science workshop. Interesting. Wants to know if we want to grab a beer. We'll see. I generally can't make plans more than 24 hours in advance. Postmodernism, but I'm going to assume, just for the sake of argument, that the Jason Murphy answer is take your pants off and punch him right in the throat, because that sounds, I don't know.
Like Jason Murphy was
trying to channel my inner Jason here. Yeah. Punch him in the throat with your dick. I don't know. But it's a good question. What do you do when you're caught in an awkward conversation, Nick?
I was actually recently when my stepdad got tickets for the World Cup final for the rugby game. Mm-hmm. For the New Zealand match. I like rugby. I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm not a big fan of sports in general. But in this circumstance, it was my stepdad getting the tickets and my brother going, and I was thinking about first I'm not a big fan of rugby, but then I thought hang on a second, this is a big game, and I get to spend time with my stepdad and my brother, and there'll be beer. Mm-hmm. So when he's asking what do I do in that situation, and he gave me the options, I would say have alcohol handy, and you'll find yourself enjoying the match a lot better, a lot more. So and then you'll be then my stepdad would be saying oh, you seem really invested in that match, and that'll just be because I was drunk enough to know when to stand up and go, hey, come on. Just to make sure, you have to make sure which team you're going for beforehand.
Right.
Whoever else everyone supports. So
right. Yeah, you don't want to be on the opposite side of a rugby match. I could say that this is one of the few times in a person's life when smoking comes in very, very handy. Because smoking is generally speaking a lovely excuse to go, I'm sorry, you excuse me for just a second. I'm just going to go have a cigarette real fast. All right, I'll be back in a few minutes. And then you can see if they're still talking about whatever that thing is. Generally speaking, though, at this point, I don't try to engage in awkward conversation with people about football. And I don't generally surround myself with people whose interest is football. And my extended family generally tends to be smart enough to understand that I don't have. They'll be like, "Oh, so my mom's family, they were kind of big Red Sox fans, I guess, and so my grandpa and they would all sit around and watch baseball. Hell, my sister used to be really into college basketball, and generally speaking, it was just one of those things where you'd be like, "Oh, so do you like basketball?" And I'd be like, "No." I mean, most human beings, Nick, that are not complete jerk-offs will not try to like just talk to you about a thing that you're showing no interest in whatsoever. Or at
Are you
least,
kidding me? Are you really? I look at sports the same way. Like, I see people who are really into sports. I think they're geeks. I just think that they're fucking nerds. Okay, they have their fantasy football and they have all this statistics. They remember like which year a match like where one guy hurt his leg or something. They're fucking nerds. All right, so. And I don't know how many geeks are into Star Wars who talk to me. I'm not Star Trek. And they're like, "You into Star Trek?" I'm like, "No, I'm not into Star Trek." And they'll carry on talking to me about Star Trek despite the fact I just told them I'm not into Star Trek. So the same thing happens with football. Like, what team do you support? No, I don't follow football. Yeah, but what team do you support? Arsenal. Oh, dude, how you be Arsenal? I'm like, I don't care. All right, I just told you. I was just saying that so you would leave me alone.
You know what? Maybe the answer to this question for me, postmodernism, is that I feel like in my family we have an unspoken rule where like if like my uncles are going to be like, "Hey, did you catch the game last night?" I can be like, "Yeah, I don't really watch football." And they'd be like, "Oh," and then they turn to my other uncle and start talking about it. Then I thought you
were gonna say like which game exactly because I was playing several. It'd be like, "Hey," it was like really geeky sort of answer to that. It's like, "No, I meant the match. Did you watch the match last night?" It's like, "Oh no." Then in that case, no. I was playing Dark Souls.
Yeah, no, but I did beat Artorias and Smo on New Game Triple Plus. That I am free to walk away from that conversation, right? If people are talking about, if they're like, "Oh, do you follow football?" And I'm like, "No," and they're like, "Oh, well, the fucking Green Bay shitstorms won last night," and I'll be like, "Great, you guys have fun with that. I'm gonna go over here and get another beer, or what? I mean, finish whatever drink you're drinking, or say, hey, I got to go to the bathroom, or make an excuse and just get the fuck out of there because I don't need to stand around and listen to you talk about Peyton."
Yeah, but
Manning.
That's antisocial, though.
Well,
I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that with my family. I would get shit for it.
Really? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it's not fair. It's the culture that we live in. Like, sports is way more accepted than video games and movies.
I think that's crazy because I mean maybe I just have the super good luck of having a family that's not super into any kind of one sport and a friend group that generally speaking, if not is not into sports, at least understands that I know nothing and have zero interest. So if you want to sit there and talk about sports in front of me, that's great. But at a certain point, I'm going to be on my phone looking at Twitter because I can only sit there and go, oh, then what happened? Oh, shit, really? Oh, wow. Because I just have no idea. So I guess in that respect, postmodernism, I live a blessed existence where I am just free to be the one asshole card that I will play in this world on a consistent basis is no, I don't give a fuck about sports.
Right there with you, mate.
Like, do you want to talk about like how these giant FIFA stadiums are like bankrupting countries? Because I think that's fascinating. Or like the enhanced
the corruption scandal going on.
Yeah, all that stuff. I think that's great. Yeah, but other than that, no, I don't really care about who actually kicked the ball into the ball place.
Just like, did you watch the game last night? Yeah, he kicked the ball into the goal, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. This is pretty much what it's about. It's like, oh, so I didn't miss anything then. Like nothing unusual happened. That doesn't always happen with every fucking game.
Yeah. So what happened? Did something different happen than the last several hundred years of baseball, football, soccer, or basketball? Did the
ball go when it was supposed to go?
Yeah. Did a guy jump from one side of the basketball court all the way and slam dunk on the other side? Because I'll go look that shit up on YouTube right now. But if it was like, nope, another guy, there's some 3 points and some 2 points, and then there was a foul, it'd be like, oh, you mean like every other game ever? Was he spec for magic or dexterity? Because I don't. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Bring it back a little bit. Rope it back in a little bit. Rope it back in a little bit. All right. Our next one comes in from our friend Danger Dave, who says, "Ahoy, Rage Select! I am getting married soon. Congratulations, Danger Dave. My fiance is not from the U.S., and though we have spent some time together stateside, most of our lives together have been overseas. However, in just a few months, she'll be moving here permanently. This brings me to my question: what would top your super American must-do list? Are there any specific sites, destinations, or experiences that you think are a must-do for new residents of the United States? We have been to the Grand Canyon, but the rest of the country is a mysterious land of obesity and football to her. Any ideas for what should top our list of American adventures? Bless the dong Lord and his dong water. Bless the coming and going of him, but mostly his coming. Cheers, Danger Dave." I thought you'd be somewhat equipped to maybe answer this question, Nick. I don't know how many other places you've been in the U.S. outside of Austin.
No. I've been to loads. It's just that I've only been to the big cities. So I've been to like all the most important cities, I guess you can call them in America. But
you've been to Miami, Florida?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Oh, you have been to Miami? Oh, sorry. That was supposed to be a joke.
Take a piss, take it. No, I have been there. I've been to Miami. I've been to Boston, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Austin, of course, Chicago, St. Louis, Kansas City. I'm sure there's other ones I'm missing. But, yeah, I've been to the big cities. I want to go to Grand Canyon, but he's already said that. So I want to go see, like, the real America. Not the Walmarts and places like that, and I want to see like the gorgeous landscapes of like Montana, Colorado, and
I've got a bad
Utah.
I've got bad news for you, Nick. The Walmart is the real America. The rest are the very pretty parts, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So like just like the real America, how it must have looked back during the frontier days. Even Arizona. I mean, like I would go to Tombstone just to check it out for the novelty of being in a wild western sort of place. Like just the big sort of landmarks. That's where I would go.
I would say that if you were coming to America for the first time, even though I haven't been to one of these, I'd say that you could do a hell of a lot worse by starting with New York and L.A. Those are two very different places that all have a lot of shit to do in them. You know, with all the movie stuff in L.A. as well as, you know, there's beaches and there's all kinds of other stuff. And then New York, you got all the theater and the food and the arts. And they're two very different places, right? You're going to get to see like kind of two radically different spectrums of the United States by New York. Like I would say, you know, I've been to Chicago and Chicago is cool. I'd rather go to New York, but it wasn't an option when it was time to do that.
Yeah.
But you could almost go, Dave, if you wanted to, with like LA, New York, and then maybe like you were talking about, Nick, somewhere in the South, like Austin or Phoenix, or, you know, one of the kind of southern states to kind of get that kind of dusty South type of thing.
Or New Orleans.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm trying to think, because for New York City, it really reminds me of London. It's very multicultural, which is awesome. Like, it's a great city to check out and stuff. But, like, to see the real America, that's what I would think would be more interesting in sort of seeing.
I've seen real America. It's terrible.
Oh, no,
pretty terrible.
I lived in Missouri for a year, okay? Like, that's real America as well. But I'm talking about the ones that you see in movies from, you know, back in the day and stuff like that. You know,
so New York.
You know,
and New York.
No, New York. I'm talking about like mountains, dude, and deserts.
Oh, okay.
And, plantations.
Well, see, but that's the interesting thing about if you went to L.A., right, is that you have, you know, there's a lot of places out in California where you can see kind of like desert, you can see kind of mountains, you can see the coast. There's a lot of different diversity to the kind of outdoorsy stuff that you could do up there. Like, I don't know, maybe drive. You know what would probably be the quintessential thing if you just had all the time and money and whatever in the world? Start in Miami, drive from Miami to New York up the East Coast, then take a plane from New York to Los Angeles and drive from Los Angeles up to Seattle along the West Coast, right? you'd probably get a pretty interesting cross-section of things out there. Like maybe L.A. to Vegas to like Portland to Seattle, or like L.A. to Vegas to San Francisco to Portland to Seattle on the West Coast, and then like Miami, and you could go to like Washington, D.C. and see stuff all up and down the East Coast if you wanted to do that. I mean, not to say that the entire middle of the United States is garbage or anything.
No,
like, there's
it's not.
nothing to see nowhere else outside of those two coastlines. But I think you're going to kind of get a polarizing extreme of looking at that side of the U.S. versus the other side of the U.S. You're going to get kind of a dramatic, like, you know, those guys in Star Trek that have the black and white faces, like that, except for a country. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, I've been to more places in America than a lot of my American friends when I was living in Missouri. Mm-hmm. But still, like, I only got, like, a fraction of what America has to offer. So you just have to figure out what's more appealing to you, whether it be a big metropolitan cities like New York is amazing with its skyscrapers, or the great outdoors. So, yeah.
All right. So our next question comes from Thwack, who says, "Dear Jeff and Nick, with the year's end quickly approaching, will 2015 go down as the year when indie titles finally overtook AAA titles in terms of critical acclaim? This year saw amazing indie titles such as Undertale, Pillars of Eternity, Hotline Miami 2, Axiom Verge, Soma, The Beginner's Guide, and Her Story. While on the other hand, most AAA titles were met with a very lukewarm response and disappointment. Fallout 4 caused minor controversy when Giant Bomb criticized bugginess. Star Wars Battlefront was criticized for not having being substantial enough to warrant a $6 price tag. The new Assassin's Creed game exists and no one cares. And of course, Metal Gear Solid 5 came out and led to Jeff having a mental breakdown over how disappointing he was with the Metal Gear game. I think I might be a little incredulous. I have mental breakdowns for entirely different reasons. Anyway.
That's my favorite question of all time. It's like Assassin's Creed exists and no one cares.
Yeah. Seems that only large budgeted games that came out this year that were a hit were The Witcher 3 and Bloodborne, and both of those games probably didn't have nearly the budget of the new Tomb Raider game, which no one is playing because it's an Xbox One exclusive. Was this year as seismic as it seemed, or am I completely full of shit for thinking that? Completely full of shit?
No, you're not. No, you're not.
So you don't think he's full of shit?
No, I don't. I think he's the best question we've ever gotten. I love this guy.
Okay. Crazy. I am going to say that, let's just say here, time to get out one of the big lists and look through it. Because one of the things that I always tend to forget is that things came out in January that were not that we forget about. So let's see what came out that we may have forgotten about. All right, here we go. Don't care. Dying Light doesn't give a shit. But Gravity Ghost, Pix the Cat, iDarb, Life is Strange. Life is Strange, not really.
Was that's episodic? Wasn't that an indie game?
Mm-hmm. Well, no, it was episodic. Square published it. About the girl who could turn back time. I still mean to go back and play some more of that. Let's see. Evolve. Ooh, wow. Yeah, Evolve came out this year. Is anybody still playing Evolve?
Fuck no.
Let's see.
I called that on being a piece of shit.
Hand of Fate. Wow, I'm already into February. The Sims 4 sold very well, but that's neither here nor there. The Order 1886, somebody actually wrote me on my Facebook page to tell me why The Order 1886 is actually a pretty good game. And I'm like, yeah, all right. If you paid $10 for it, sure, why not? Let's see. Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Resident Evil Revelations 2. Assassin's Creed Rogue on the PC.
That was meant to be very good. Wait, am I thinking of Rogue?
Yeah.
That was that was meant to be really good.
Yep, I liked it quite a bit. Came out last year, technically, though, because it was 360 and PS3 last year. Ori and the Blind Forest, that's more of like a indie thing. Bioshock Infinite for Linux. Okay. All right, we're up to March now. Bloodborne, right? No, Axiom Verge, that's one that he talked about. Whoa, Dave's Dark Souls 2 Scholar, the First Sin, which I don't really count because it was a remake. Mortal Kombat X. No, That came out this year.
Yeah, it came out this year. Yeah,
That came out this year. Let's see, garbage. Sorry, garbage.
Would you count Witcher 3 as a AAA game?
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's just a company that does one thing. They haven't done anything else. And they don't have the political muscle of Rockstar or Rocksteady or any of the Ubisoft companies.
Yeah, but I mean, they don't do a lot, but what they do is they tend to focus on one thing at a time. I mean, back in the old days, or actually even now, it seems like that's kind of what like Blizzard does, right? They don't put out a whole shitload of different things. I mean, they've got...
Sure they do. They have World of Warcraft, that's the biggest moneymaker, but they do other stuff.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like they did StarCraft? Is that
Yeah. I guess it kind of just depends on what you mean by AAA. But I think that CD Projekt Red is a big enough company. Oh boy. Okay. Keep his trip. Magicka 2. Damn. Splatoon. Got a lot of critical. I'm up to June here. Sorry, folks. I don't mean to make you listen to me mumble my way through the entire year. Transistor. No, that was the iOS version of Transistor. Arkham Knight came out this year. That was another biggie. Incarnate's Rocket League, which probably counts more as an indie title anyway. God of War 3 Remastered as a remake. Whew. This year kind of blows, Nick. Up to July. Five Nights at Freddy's 4.
No, it doesn't blow. It just has like about 3 or 4 really, really, really good games, and the rest is kind of meh.
Yeah. Zombie, Final Fantasy 7 on iOS. I Am Bread, Until Dawn. Until Dawn was smaller, but still full on. Disney, and we had all the figure games, Disney Infinity 3.0, Lego Dimensions, and what was the other one? Skylanders Superchargers, along with Rock Band and Guitar Hero, both came out. Yeah. Well,
I see what he's talking about.
I do too. I mean, I think the thing is that I think that his question is a little. I think that his question is a little dismissive about those big games. I think that we tend to have a little bit of a disconnect with, like, everybody criticized Fallout 4 because it was buggy. But I've been willing to bet Fallout 4 still sold pretty goddamn well. Star Wars Battlefront was criticized. Also, last week we had a story where EA said that was the biggest digital launch they've ever had of any game of all time. Sims 4 got a lot of shit. And then I remember coming out with sales numbers for The Sims 4 where it was like, here, let me see if sometimes Wikipedia can bring this up pretty quickly. It's like, do you remember when The Sims 4 came out and everybody was just like, dude, fuck this game. Fuck it. It doesn't have any of the things that Sims 3 had. It is the worst. It's terrible. Fuck it. It's the most garbage of all games ever in the history of mankind. And then let's see. Sims 4. Let me just see if I can find it online. Sales. Oh, no, wait, that was 2000. Was that 2014 when that came out? No. Sims 4 didn't come out in 2000. Did it come out in 2014?
Maybe it came out at the end of the year.
Oh, yeah, no, it did. It did come out in 2014. Sorry, I was fucked up by that. But, okay, I tell you what, let's not bandy around the bush. Let's use our old friend, what was that stupid website that does sales figures, VG Charts. Okay, so everybody knows the VG Charts is for horse shit, right? But it's kind of an estimator, right, of the number of things that have been sold. So it's not tried and true. So let's type some of these in here. Let's see what they have listed for Fallout 4 right now. 5.19 million copies worldwide. That's $60 a pop, essentially around $30 million. That's not bad at all. Metal Gear Solid 5. I guess he's really talking more about, I guess, critical acclaim more than like sales figures. I think the indie titles have overtaken the AAA titles in terms of critical acclaim because they're doing more interesting things that people are talking about. I don't think that means that those games are better games, and I don't think that means that Fallout 4 is a giant piece of shit because Giant Bomb said it was buggy. I think that Fallout 4 is still going to sell. I think that all the problems that you and I talked about Metal Gear Solid 5, I still had a lot of fun playing Metal Gear Solid 5. Halo 5 came out this year. Black Ops 3, in spite of what we're talking about, came out this year. There's things that have come out this year that are going to sell and are kind of interesting and worth talking about that are not indie games. Like Pillars of Eternity is pretty much just Baldur's Gate. And Hotline Miami 2 is pretty much just Hotline Miami 1. Axiom Verge is just Metroid. Soma is a walking simulator. And a lot of people, I think the beginner's guide may still have more downvotes on Steam than it has upvotes because people are like, fuck this walking simulator bullshit.
Wait. A walking simulator?
Yeah. Have you ever never played one of those games? Did you play, there was a game.
What do you mean walking simulator?
Okay. So do you remember there's a game that came out called Everybody's Gone to the Rapture? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think there was like a trailer for it or something. Did you showed me?
Yeah. Did you ever play Soma?
No.
Okay. Walking Simulator basically is a game where you don't really have that much interaction with the world outside of just walking through it and finding the storyline. Like you'll find audio logs, or you'll find like in Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, it's these ghosts that are recreating scenes from the past.
After like an apocalypse or something, right?
Right. So the interaction with the player is very low, right? They don't have, in Everybody's Gone to the Rapture or the Beginner's Guide, you don't really interact with the world all that much. Like you may open a door and you're free to walk wherever you want to, but the point of the game is more about immersing you and then letting you walk through this kind of prearranged thing where you get the storyline. A lot of people hate those games because they want more interactivity in their games. Dear Esther, I think, was like that. I've never played it, but it was kind of in that same vein. There was a game called Colot that I played with Allison that was very much like that.
Are these like Oculus Rift games?
Nope. Everybody's Gone to the Rapture was a PlayStation 4 game where you just walk around and it's like everybody's gone and you're listening to these audio logs. You're looking at these like swirls that are kind of going through the world that are showing you events from the past that are letting you piece together the story a little bit at a time. There's some
that does sound very boring, I got to say.
It depends on the story. It really depends on the story. Like Soma was a walking simulator that was pretty good. It just depends on it. Really, it's the sort of thing, Nick, where you don't want to get blindsided with that sort of game. Like you don't want to load up a game thinking that you're going to be playing a fully featured interactive game and then just end up being a story. Like the Beginner's Guide, I thought was a very, very interesting game because it's like this kind of weird virtual tour about a fictitious game developer through their games, through this guy that's like curating their games, and it actually ends up turning into a story. The whole game can be played in about an hour from start to finish. Like it's no more than that, right? There's some very minimal amount of interaction that you have with the world with some of these like fake games this person has made. But it's effective. I thought that Soma was a little more effective. I thought that Everybody's Gone to the Rapture is a little less effective. But I don't know. I do feel like every year it seems like I'm saying, Nick, that like, this is the year, man. This is where we're going to get back to everything being all exciting and brand new and stuff. And then every year it's like, but I still can't really super criticize a year where we got a new Fallout game, a new Metal Gear game, and a new game from the person who developed Dark Souls, right? It's kind of hard to be super down on a year when all three of those things happened at the same time. In any case, it's also very possible that I'm remembering 2011 through rose-colored glasses or 2010 through rose-colored glasses. So I don't know. Do you have anything else to add? Shall we move on?
Let's move on.
Okay. The next one comes in from Nikita, who says, "Hello, Jeff and Nick Dongs. Lately, a lot of movies are trying to turn themselves to franchises right off the bat. Setting up a sequel makes the story bloated and stinks of desperation. Marvel did this right, but now even video games are doing it. Is it just not financially viable to make one standalone experience? Do you agree that this is a problem? Thanks for reading and rage on, Nikita." And then he says, a male name in Russia, by the way. So, yeah, like Nikita Khrushchev. No, I'm just kidding. So I don't know about you, Nick, but I feel like this shit's been going on for a while now, and that personally, I am real irritated by it. Anytime that a video game ends with a dun dun dun, to be continued next year in part 2, unless those assholes already have the capital to make the part 2, that's a dick move, bro. That's a seriously dick move. I don't know.
I totally agree with you there. I mean, didn't Assassin's Creed Unity sort of end like that?
Did it? I don't remember.
I just remember it ending rather abruptly, and you're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Really? So, okay, so, but yeah, unless, like I said, it's like already a franchise, but then I guess it's sort of okay if you are expecting a sequel. But generally, if it's like the first game already, then that's really annoying.
Yeah. Yep, I hate it when they end on that. Actually, you know what? The first, not Assassin's Creed Unity, but the original Assassin's Creed kind of did that, right? They didn't know what the fuck was going on at the end of that game as far as the Desmond storyline went.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, I feel I like a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. I feel like there's ways to take a story that ends in a specific way and reopen it to sequels. But I think that it's just too important to understand that if you don't have the funding or your game flops like a motherfucker and you don't have a way to make a sequel, that you now have what is essentially an incomplete storyline that just goes at the end, and nobody knows what happens next. So, yeah, I remember. Do you remember back when Dead Space 2 came out, and it was like, here's the comic book tie-in, here's the DVD prequel, here is the iOS Interquel game, and it was just like, oh, could you guys just fucking make the one video game and let me play that? Like, Assassin's Creed is actually a really good example because I have a friend, or kind of had a friend, boohoo, that used to...
Yeah, differences of the Assassin's Creed games, and now you're no longer friends.
Yes, that's right. I was like, fuck Unity, and he was like, Unity rules, and that was the last time we spoke. No, but he was a big fan, and he would read like the comics and watch, these little videos that were made online and stuff like that. And so I'd be talking about like, I don't understand this, and he'd be like, well, actually, in the comic, blah 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 blah, and I'm just like, it doesn't exist, no tie-ins.
No, they do that all the time. I mean, like especially with the Star Wars franchise. Although it's now it's hilarious that all of that is not canon anymore.
Yep. I think that's one of the things that I remember some people saying. Some people were telling me when Avengers: Age of Ultron came out that there was a bunch of stuff in there that was related to the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, and I was like, oh, fuck you. Fuck you for expecting me to go watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Just eat my balls, Marvel. Like, I don't want to go watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I tried watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It was shitty. And I'm sure it gets better after episode 600.
Everyone's giving me shit for not watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I watched the first 2 episodes. I thought they were crap, to be honest.
I mean, here's the thing. I am not going to sit here and tell you because I don't rightly know whether the game gets better or worse after a dozen episodes. What I'm going to tell you is that I'm not going to watch a dozen episodes of a bad TV show just for it to get good. I'm not doing that anymore. Fuck it. If you can't make your show good, you can't make your show good. Like, it's the same reason that everybody's like, ooh, Arrow, it's so great. You just have to get through the whole first season because the whole first season is kind of crap. And I'm just like, well, then I'm not going to watch it. Because fuck it. I've got other stuff that I could do with my time that is not watching a whole bad first season of a television show. And that's it. So, yeah. So, kind of got off a little bit on a tangent there, Nikita. But, yeah. Yeah, that sucks. It's stupid. Next question. This one says, hello, Jeff and Nick. This is Mitchell, and I was wondering if you think that microtransactions in AAA games are out of need because of the high development cost of games, or out of greed as a way to milk the consumer after paying $60 or more for a game. I'm not sure, and both things could be going on, but I wanted your opinion on the topic. Also, Halo 5 has microtransactions, and everyone knows the game doesn't have to worry about making a profit, but there's just one example when it comes to greed and microtransactions. Thanks, Mitchell. So I feel like this is a thing that's been coming up, more and more frequently. And I think that my answer... Well, I tell you what, Nick. Why don't you go first? What do you think? Microtransactions, need or greed?
Greed.
Yep.
Yeah, I really don't see the necessity of it. I mean, like, if it's for, like, something that's not really beneficial to the game, not really important, like whether it be a skin or, like, maybe a different type of gun or something, then, that's fine, as long as it doesn't take anything away from the experience. But if it's something crucial, like a character or a story element, then it starts to piss me off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, okay, so I've heard this argument set up a bunch of times before about AAA games take a lot of money to develop, and the only way that a company can keep the game at $60 is to put microtransactions in their game. That's not true, because if that was the case, every single $60 game that came out would have microtransactions, right?
They're starting to. They're getting them. They're becoming more frequent.
Fallout 4, no microtransactions. Just Cause 3, no microtransactions. Let's go down a list that Thwack gave us. Metal Gear Solid 5 had some DLC cosmetic bullshit, but no, it did. Never mind. Strike that one, because it had that fucking mother base token bullshit to buy the forward operating bases. Yeah, so fuck that. Fuck you, Metal Gear. You got microtransactions, but Witcher 3 didn't really have microtransactions. Like, you couldn't buy your way into... did it? No, you could like pay to win in Witcher 3. So as far as I'm concerned, if the only way that you can afford to make your game is by putting microtransactions in your game, you should go back to square one and make your game different. Like, make a different sort of game, or cut a feature, or make it not as long, or do whatever, so that your game costs $60 that you don't have to. Because as near as I can tell, the microtransactions, like, I think I've read this. I'm not entirely sure. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, as always. But I swear to God, I've read some studies that say that like 90% of people do not ever touch microtransactions, right? But the 10% that do touch microtransactions, like they will spend an extra $50 in microtransactions on a $60 game. So that the microtransactions are mostly there for these whales that will come in and spend a shitload of money on a game that should just cost $60. So I keep saying this all the time. No matter what extenuating circumstances you want to put out there, the market will not accept if the game industry wants to raise the price of all games to $80. Like, we're just not going to do that. Well, I don't know. We might do it. God only knows with collector's editions and with the season passes and shit like that. We're kind of.
Well, they're slowly doing it though.
Yeah.
They're like raised like each generation like an extra $5, an extra $10.
Yeah, but
and then within 10 years, it will be $70 or $80, and that will just be the norm.
But that hasn't happened this time. Like, there's nobody that's charging $65 for a game that there isn't also thinking, a $60
like
version of. Yeah.
Right. In the UK, games generally are about £50. Mm-hmm. Right. So like, I just remember it last generation sort of being £40. And a long time ago, it was like 30-something pounds. So I'm just seeing it slowly get more and more expensive, and you just kind of have to accept it. Like, games are like this, are this expensive. I mean, is there any reason why it has to be $60 over $50?
Well, because that's what that's where I come down to. That's what the market will support, right? There's a whole and somebody who's got a degree in economics could tell you this better than I can. But there's a whole thing here where, let's say that you're making a shoe, right? And your shoe is fantastic. You fucking make the best pair of shoes anybody's ever bought in their entire life. And they cost $300 a pair. And nobody will buy them. They're worth $300 a pair. You've done everything that you can to get them down to $300 a pair. It's a single pair of shoes that's the most comfortable pair of shoes you'll ever own and will never wear out in your entire life. Yet nobody will buy them because the market will not support a $300 pair of shoes. Well, I'm sure there's already $300 pairs of shoes. I'm a cheap bastard. I'll wear the same shoes till they fall off my feet, literally. But you have to take into account that there's a certain amount that people are willing to pay for a certain thing, and you can't go above that, regardless of whether your product actually costs that much to make. If people won't pay that much for it, then you can't just go, well, you should. I mean, people will pay what they will pay for a thing. So
yeah, but Jeff, PlayStation 2 games were much cheaper, and it still cost a lot of money to make them at the time.
Okay, so here's the thing. For I know that you're talking about your perspective. From my perspective, PlayStation 2 games were $50. PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 / Xbox One / PC games have all been $60 for the last 10 years of my life. Some games will be reduced. They'll be discount games. Indie games on Steam will be $20 or whatever. But from the time that I got myself a PlayStation 3 until now, games have been $60. They'll sell you a Game of the Year version that's $70. They'll try to sell you a microtransaction season pass that's $25 or $50 or $1 million or whatever it is. They'll put a bunch of microtransactions in the game to try to get you to spend extra $5 or $10 here and there. But the base game is generally $60. And that's been my experience, is that from the PlayStation 2 era to the PlayStation 3 era, the price of games went up by $10, but that I don't think people would accept another $10 increase for the PlayStation 4 era.
And that's within 10 years, though.
Yes.
Within 10 years. Okay. Shouldn't stand a chance that in another 10 years it would jump up to $70.
Well, again, that's if the market will allow it. Right? It's not a thing where you could just do the math and say, because it cost us more to make these games, you have to pay more for them. Because quite frankly, the person who's the consumer, the consumers aren't just robots that you could just abuse. You have to go out and be like, would you spend $70 on the best looking game you've ever seen in your entire life? Yes. Well, then maybe we'll sell this new game for $70, right? Like, if you came out with something like Half-Life 3 and wanted to charge people $70 and they actually bought it for $70, then that makes sense. But if you come out with Half-Life 3 and you say it's $70 and everybody just goes, you know what? Fuck you. Or the majority of people just go, fuck you. I don't care what it is. I'm not going up to $70 for the base game. Then you have to rethink what you're doing there. I mean...
I don't think so. I think it happens very, very gradually. Like, they'll be sort of cheeky about it, like, how if we raise it like an extra $5, are people going to be pissed? You get like a few people pissed here and there, but most people just generally accept it if it keeps being an extra $5, and then it'll be the established norm. And then slowly over the time, they take more and more of an effort to kind of get you to pay more for these games.
But see, they had their opportunity to do that. It was the PlayStation 4 Xbox One release. Like for the PS2 era to the PS3 era, games did start to become $60, as near as I could tell. Right? So they had their opportunity when the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One came out to start making games $70. Just say, guess what? It's all $70 now, right? But they didn't. So now it's just going to become an arbitrary thing where halfway through the lifespan of this console, they're just going to be like, oh, we raised the price of everything. Go fuck yourself.
I highly doubt it's going to continue being $60 within another 10 years. I really think it'll be 65 or maybe even 70.
I'm more worried, and I'm not super worried about that. I mean, I know that I'd rather it not happen, but I do understand the argument that games are becoming more complicated to develop, and there's a higher degree of graphics and things like that are necessary in order to make a game that people are willing to play. What I'm more concerned about is that they won't raise the price to $70, and instead they're going to cut more and more of the game out and then add it on as DLC later on. That it's day one DLC, like that fucking dude in Mass Effect 3. All right, we got a couple more questions here, then we're going to be done. First one comes in from Victor P., who says, Dear Rage Lords of all eternity, who would win in a fight, Drunk Jeff after finding out all of Taco Bell's in Texas burned down, or God? Probably the Lord. I'm not really that powerful.
Just like, what?
Yeah. In all seriousness, I need help. I used to get very invested in every video game I bought, be it a classic JRPG like Final Fantasy VII or a pick-up-and-play fighting game like Tekken. I played the shit to 100% several times over and love every second of it. Now it takes me more than a week of leisurely play, 2 to 3 hours a day, and I drop the game and never revisit it. Mobile games seem to capture my attention more, as they are designed to be addictive with relatively meaningless but flashy achievements and goals, but the ability to play quickly whenever and wherever. I guess my question is, do you personally know of someone who has lost, quotey fingers, the magic for console/PC games and replaced it with mobile ones? Do you have any advice as to how I can recapture that old feeling? Hope my wording is bearable. I haven't slept in 2 days. May your urinary tracts be ever infection-free. Okay, that's a very specific... Thank you, Victor P. Yeah, me too. And also to you, Victor, as it were. Let's see. I think that for anything, if you're getting burned out on it, Victor, you probably just need to step away from it a little bit. Put down the mobile games, put down the console games, put down all the games, and watch Breaking Bad, and then go back and try playing it again.
That does it for me. Yeah.
You also probably maybe need to pick the right types of games I mean, it sounds like if you have 2 to 3 hours a day to play a video game, that it'd be better to stick with games that you know that you can finish in a relatively decent amount of time. Like this is what you and I have been talking about for the last 6 months with The Witcher 3. That like The Witcher 3 is kind of a pain in the ass to play into 2 to 3 hours a day because, it just a lot of times, or at least for me, it would seem like I wanted to carve out 8 to 10 hours to play The Witcher 3 because 2 to 3 hours of The Witcher 3 and I'd be like, I didn't actually do anything. I just rode back and forth to towns and
just like upgrading my armor,
right?
Like raising enough money just to do this one specific thing.
Yeah. So if I could give you a little Jeff secret that everybody can have, if you go to, there's a website out there called howlongtobeat.com. Howlongtobeat, all one word, .com, no HTTP in the front of it. And if you go there, you can hit the search button. You can search through games, and basically people just log or sign up to this website, and they just log the number of hours that they played in the game. So, like when I go to the games list, Fallout 4 is right here, and it says main story, average of 22 hours and 23 minutes. Main story plus extras, 55 hours and 44 minutes. Completionists, 153 hours and 18 minutes. And all play styles kind of average, 55 hours and 52 minutes. It's broken down by the console or by, consoles. And you can kind of get some more data on it. But I find that a lot of times when I'm playing a game, I will go to How Long to Beat just to see how long it is because I want to know. Like, I want to know if a game's going to be 8 hours, 20 hours, or 150 hours, like, so that I can budget my time appropriately. And with the fact that, Victor, you're losing a little bit of interest in some of this stuff, I'd say stick to the top-rated games that come out every year. And, hey, you know what? Maybe buy yourself one of those new 3DSs, because that's kind of a mobile game, and a lot of those games on the 3DS are games that you could just pick up and play a little bit and then put back down again. So maybe get a new 3DS and play the new Fire Emblem or Bravely Default, or one of those RPGs where you can just whip your 3DS out and play it a little bit at a time. Sounds dirty, right? Whip out your 3DS. All right, one more question, then we're done. This one's real short. You ready, Nick?
Yes.
Dear Jeff and Nick, Star Wars question, old Stormtrooper armor or new Stormtrooper armor? What say you? It's not even signed.
Over what looks cooler or the function of it?
It's make-believe, so how it looks.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering, because, you remember the old Stormtroopers? They were really shit shots. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering it's because that helmet tended to obscure what they were seeing. So maybe these new Stormtroopers will actually be able to hit something for a change, and it's because of that new upgraded armor. So in that case, it will be the new armor. But for the sake of nostalgia, I've got to go with the old armor. So.
Yeah, me too. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be that guy, but,
It does look cool. I'm really pleased with how the new Stormtrooper armor looks.
Yeah, definitely. It does look super snazzy. It's got enough of a callback to the way the old stuff looks. Like, it's got that, I'm just looking at old Stormtrooper armor. Man, that belt is so dorky. You got that huge bunch of pouches like Rob Liefeld and shit.
It was like, what was that thing at the very back? It was like a circle and like a rectangle just randomly, and all that. I always wondered what that was for.
Yeah,
what is that
on the back panel? It's got it's a circle and then it's like 2 1s, right? It's like 0 1 1 on the back of the Stormtrooper armor. I don't know. You have to ask Jason Murphy. He's a fucking
what is that?
Resident Star Wars nerd.
I always wonder if that's meant to slot into something, like if they're sitting in a chair. And, roller coaster rides.
Recharge them roller coaster rides? The Stormtrooper, when they're not on duty, when they go down to the Death Star, they're like, "Wee! Put your hands above your head!"
It's the best way of getting around that thing. It's a giant space station.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with old Stormtrooper armor because I'm 37-year-old man, and I remember seeing that movie when it came out. Oh, look, I just did a Google search for Stormtroopers, and I got a bunch of sexy lady Stormtroopers. So, who I can only tell are sexy ladies because they've got their helmets off. All right, so we'll end on Sexy Lady Stormtroopers. That'll be our show for the week. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. If you have questions, send them into mail@ragelight.com. Nick, why don't you tell the people where they can find the world-famous goddamn history buffs of history? You like history?
Yes.
Nick's got you covered.
Yes.
Give him the pitch. Give him the whole rundown, start to finish.
Okay, quickly. It's a show where I review historical movies and I tell you how accurate those movies are to what they're based on. So you can find my channel on History Buffs on YouTube. I'll be like the first 9 or 10 videos there. I'm also on Facebook, History Buffs London, and on Twitter, History Buffs _. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Yep, you guys should totally go watch that shit. It's got so much better production value than any of this horse shit, this stupid Rage Select bullshit. Join us back here tomorrow for another brand new video. And yeah, I think that I've got to go. I'm going to keep looking at these pictures of sexy stormtroopers. So
nice.
I think we need to wrap it up. No, they're all mine. They're all for me. Good night, everybody. I'll see you later.
Good night.